Set him up.
Brett Hull's 69 goals and Adam Oates' 71 assists have keyed Brian Sutter's success in St. Louis. The St. Louis Blues are a team that has been bolstered offensively by blue liner Scott Stevens, and they've risen to the top 5 in preventing goals as well. Yet on December the 29th, in the only prior meeting, one of Brian Sutter's younger brothers, Ron, helped the Flyers to a splendidly executed 3-1 victory. The Flyers faced the league's hottest scorer twice, while they're wearing home white at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. The first of those 2 times in taking on Brett Hull and the Blues comes up tonight. Tonight's matchup features the St. Louis Blues and the Philadelphia Flyers. Good evening, everyone. Along with Bill Clement, sporting a little nick in the nose from one of those fierce alumni games, I'm Mike Emmerich. I think fierce is probably going to describe what we see in this contest tonight, because the St. Louis Blues and the Flyers are unbeaten in 5, and the Blues are the best team in the league.
Well, this will undoubtedly be a huge test for the Flyers. The Flyers have been the best defensive team in the NHL over the last 3 weeks. The Blues continue to impress everybody that sees them. They can beat you in so many ways now, and that flash-in-the-pan theory does not apply to the Blues. That is for sure, as the Norris standings will confirm. The Blues in first place overall in their division. They also have a game in hand over the Chicago Blackhawks, and that game is being played tonight by the Blues because the Blackhawks are idle. You can see how spread out this division is. The only big race for the Blues right now is the Chicago Blackhawks.
$200,000 goes to the team that wins the President's Trophy, and St. Louis remarkably 2 points ahead of Chicago, 3 ahead of Los Angeles. Boston played this afternoon, had a chance to gain, but lost to the Buffalo Sabres. The Blues' schedule's really good down the road, too. They have 3 away, then they come back home for a stretch, away for a stretch, and home for a stretch. No bouncing back and forth, really.
I mentioned that the Blues can beat you in many different ways. That wasn't always the case. They were a single-dimension team that just checked, and they waited for you to beat yourselves. Well, not any longer. They can put the puck away. They have offense. And the team has really been built offensively through trades. And boy, do they have some good gunners, led by Brett Hull. He leads the NHL in goal scoring by a mile with 69 goals. Courtnall, left-winger sniper, and Adam Oates, the guy that feeds Brett Hull. So you can see that the Blues have some offense to work with now.
Big night for the Flyers, too, and what they can do in the Patrick Division standings if they can win this contest over the St. Louis Blues, because the Penguins are idle tonight. The New Jersey Devils are idle, too, so the 2 teams that are chasing the Flyers most aren't playing. Flyers could be just 4 away from the Rangers and a little further ahead of those 2 teams, numbers 3 and 4.
And after tonight, the Flyers hit the road. It won't be easy. You can see the teams that they have ahead of them: Rangers, Calgary, Edmonton, L.A., Vancouver, and Washington. And when you look at the record, you'll see that the Flyers, well, they've gotten points from all of these teams, with the exception of the Edmonton Oilers. But they really are only .500 or worse against all those teams, so they haven't dominated any of those upcoming opponents.
This is the iron part of the schedule here, and this is the time when the goaltenders really have to come to the fore. The Flyers have 3 good ones. Pete Peters hasn't played that often, but he hasn't really been in a situation where he's needed to, because Ron Hextall has carried the majority of the load. Ken Reggett has been the guy who's come in and performed spectacularly, just as he did the other night in Minnesota. It's great to have 3 of them. The trade deadline's coming up Tuesday, but right now the Flyers have 3.
The problem for St. Louis is that they are hurting in goal. Their 3 top guys are hurt, so Pat Jablonski is going to start for them. You know the Flyers will try and generate a little bit of attack to test Jablonski. It's only his 3rd start in the NHL this year.
Going to be great fun. Brett Hull is here. Adam Oates is here. The Blues, the Flyers, and the opening face-off coming up. The young lady who used to sing the anthem here back when the Flyers were in the 85 and 87 finals. Ron Hextall into his game, is ready to go. Terry Fraser will be the referee tonight. Kevin Collins and Leon Stickle will be the linesmen. Pat Jablonski is the goaltender tonight for the St. Louis Blues. He's 1-0-1 this year. He has faced the Flyers one other time. That was last season, and lost to them by a count of 6-1.
Ron Hextall making his 33rd appearance of the season. Goals against average 2.93. That is strong. Still trying to push that record up to the 500 level. He is 1 game below 500 right now.
Jablonski playing because of injuries that we'll get to when we get a chance to really look over both lineups for the absentees. But Oates and Hall are very much present for the opening faceoff with Gino Cavallini. Tilly and Stevens the defense. The Flyers go with Kushner, Acton, and Tocchet in a line change, and Karkner and Samuelson the defense. So Paul Holmgren has made a couple of shifts in his line combinations tonight, as evidenced with the crew that begins the game. Samuelson just run off by Gino Cavallini. Puck picked up by Kushner. Dealt right back where it's kept alive by Stevens, and the Blues captain just flung it back into Samuelson. Turned back out to Stevens again, and he lifts it in deep. Hextall with the tap. Kartner with the take. Scooting by is Keith Acton, who had 2 goals against the Blues in the only other game played between the two this year, a 3-1 victory in St. Louis. Puck played by a high stick and a stoppage of play.
Okay, now we'll get to the rosters. Scott Sandelin has been sent back down to Hershey because Jeff Chikrin is back in the lineup, his first appearance since November 23rd. Tony Horacek has been recalled, but is scratched tonight. Martin Hassett, a healthy scratch. Mark Howe, Yuri Lotto, Tim Kerr, all injured and scratched. Pete Peters is healthy, but Ken Reggett is backing up Ron Hextall tonight. The Blues with problems in goal injury-wise. Vincent Riendo is out. Curtis Joseph also out. Brown, their top-scoring defenseman. Mahar, Puddle, Featherstone, all scratches. To make matters worse for the Blues, not only are Riendo and Joseph hurt, but the number 3 guy in the depth chart, a guy named Guy Hebert in the minors, is also injured. That's why Jablonski is starting here tonight.
Boy, and the Blues have just pulled remarkably into the overall lead and the division lead, of course, that goes along with it during the month of February when they've had significant players out, and Jeff Brown may be the most significant of the bunch because of what he lends to that power play. But the Blues had 19 February points. Only Calgary and Los Angeles had more. Puck brushed along by Ron Sutter, guided back across by Marois to Harold Snep. Then back over to Marois again. Highly experienced duo back there on defense. Puck came ahead, and Lowry flung one into Hextall. Rebound and a save by Hextall as no one took the winger who was barreling in, and that was Basson. Right back out with it come the Flyers. Derek Smith taken to the boards and glass by Harold Snep. This is Mario Marois shoveling it right back off. Rick Sutter, Ron's twin brother for the Blues, turned it back out, and Fenves up with it just to lay it back in softly on the backhand. Tocchet right after it. Shoulders with Marois. To the boards they go. To a side, and then Tocchet peels away, hoping it'll come. Eklund dueling there with Lowry. Tocchet tries to punch it away. They work hard along the boards, and Lowry wedged there by Eklund again. Lowry able to shovel it behind, and the Blues can take over at this point. Brought back up by Rich Sutter, but defended away from him by Ricci. Blues able to follow, and Sutter dumps it in and then comes for a shift change, and we'll not see the Hull line this quickly. Puck turned right back off by Rick Tocchet out to the neutral ice, and thrown back in again by Tom Tilley. Hextall behind, just sails it high, swirls right around to Tilley once more. Tilley trying to get away from Kelly Eklund and does. Backhands it across, and Brindamore couldn't read. He drops back. Ron Wilson up front with him, and Sergio Momesso, the other forward for the Blues. Wilson has to dip back. Pass one off Momesso's stick. That's helped away by Eklund. Flyers use Eklund, Tocchet, and Murray Craven up front tonight. Puck dumped in. First one to it now is Berube as he's come out on a shift change. Dealt right back, and Kjell Samuelsson will take. Myers one back in. That Jablonski slows and then sets up for Tilley. Forced off by Craven, but not until he played it loose, and so it's brought right back again by the Blues. Momesso with the drop. Brindamore with the carry. Kartner trying to match him stride for stride. Pivoting is Brindamore out in front, and unable to get a shot away was Momesso, and Craven strikes it back by handing to Berube. Mellanby up the wing with Berube. The drop for Craven is broken up neatly by the defense. Still they spar for it, and Paul Cavallini bumped by Mellanby, and the puck escapes to Stevens. Crisply turns one back that Oates had trouble grabbing. Instead, it's Mellanby just lifting it off the boards, hoping Berube can get there, but he's wedged out by Stevens. Along to handle it is Momesso. Up it comes now for Adam Oates, and then he dropped to Cavallini. Back to Oates once more. On the wing, Brindamore with Hull, breaking to the front. Save made by Hextall on Brett Hull. Brilliant conception on the part of the Blues. The timing was superb, but Hextall's was too.
Brett Bodine, one tough driver, talks about Quaker State, one tough motor oil.
At North Wilkesboro, that Carolina asphalt was hot enough to fry our King Racing Buick. Our engine was running hot, 240 degrees, and I had to keep pushing it over 8,000 RPM. Now that's when you start worrying about your oil's viscosity breaking down. But when the going got tough, the same Quaker State you can buy right off the shelf was tough enough to get me to the finish line first.
Quaker State is one tough motor oil.
Brett Hull just about had number 70. Ron Hextall spotted him coming, went down, and took away low, and it was a good decision. He just wanted to cover as much net as he could. I'm sure people are saying, how does Brett Hull get that open when the Flyers know they have to cover him? He came off the bench. Hardest guy to pick up because you never know when he's coming. You don't even know who is coming. Hull came off the bench and went right for Hextall.
Second in the league in points, first in goals, power play goals with 25, with 11, 13, and shots with now 316 with that one in this game. Those are all league leaderships, not team leads. Ron Sutter against Adam Oates for the faceoff. Sutter and Acton will be doing that heavy duty in this game tonight. A crack off the glass on that shot by Brindamore. Kushner ahead, just lays one along that Robert Dirk spins back out. Tough defenseman for the Blues, saw Kjell Samuelsson play it right back over for Karkner. Karkner's pass ahead was behind Acton, walked right back in by Jeff Courtnall, and Courtnall's pass is over for Oates. Now it's pivoting, throwing it in front was Hull, and that turned aside by Hextall. Guided along, and Acton turns it loose. Paul Cavallini controlling for the Blues. Right back with 4 minutes gone in this first period. Blues have 3 shots, and the Flyers are still looking for their first one. Dumped along now for Kushner, but kept by Hall, then lost to Kushner again. And Paul Cavallini once more. Then across to Hall. We could see a good deal of this tonight. These are two defensively oriented teams. And the type of opening that Hall got will likely be rare in this game on either side. Oates spins it back down. Kjell Samuelsson to touch. Icing the call. 15:24 to go in the first. No score.
Well, Adam Oates has gone to the bench. He was just there in the bottom left of your screen. That might be the only place he can hide from Keith Acton. While Brett Hull is the top sniper on this team, top sniper by a mile, his center, number 12, Adam Oates, is the key to Brett Hull. If you can stop Oates, who right now, to me, is the best passer in the National Hockey League. The last month, he has been so hot, and his hands have just been like gold. If you can stop Adam Oates, you will go a long way to slowing down, if not stopping, Brett Hull. Obviously, you have to pick him up when he comes off the bench, and the Flyers had trouble doing that, which any team would have. But Keith Acton's assignment tonight, Adam Oates, he is going to play them just like he played Mario Lemieux. Velcroed right to him, stuck to him in just about all zones. The Flyers are not just going to leave it up to the high man in the zone to pick up Adam Oates. They're going to try and get Acton out there against him, and he's going to be tight to Oates all night long.
Ricci and Ron Wilson for the face-off. Puck tipped on back for Pelle Eklund to take. Ricci at the front. Eklund with a shot, and that blocked off by Harold Snapp. Marois sealed up to the boards by Ricci. Puck kept for a moment by Murray Barron. They spun along the blue line for it. Wilson just stepped into by Tocchet. Marois flips it out. Murphy lifts it back in. Hit the rail and popped off the shoulder of Jablonski in front. Tocchet couldn't find the handle for the backhand attempt as the puck was bouncing all over the place. Kimball feeds on for Marois. Can't get by the defense, and Murphy wedges it back for Ricci. Headman pass to Eklund. Tocchet ahead on the wing. Tocchet pivoting, looking over the traffic. Sets up Murphy for the shot, and it's snapped out of the air by the southpaw catching Pat Jablonski. 14:45 to go in the first. We have no score.
No matter where you look, there's Mazda. We're introducing new products like the Miata, setting new sales records, winning the respect of the automotive press, and winning awards for both quality and customer satisfaction. But most important, we're making thousands of people feel just right.
Well, Gordy Murphy from the Flyers was the key to a couple of plays. First of all, this dump in that Jablonski thought was coming around behind the net, he did a good job of just focusing on that puck and not getting caught, because it would have plunked down right in the crease. And then Tocchet to Murphy and the Jablonski save. That's one way you can penetrate St. Louis. You have to get your D up on the play to join the offense. The Blues are a little lower in the rankings defensively than the Flyers are, but they're still very strong defensively, one of the best in the league.
Off of Derek Smith, flipped out by Robert Dirk and corralled by Chychrun for his first shift since back in November. Momesso took a swat from Sutter, lifted back in by Dirk. Hextall watching this as Ronning went to the corner, bumped with Jeff Chychrun, puck shoveled behind, and we get a stoppage of play. And the call is a slash, and we're looking for the man to head to the box. St. Louis had touched, so it could be it's going to be coming up on the Blues, but we'll get the call for you and the resulting power play in just a moment.
You want a new car, but you don't want to do this. Well, now all you need is $20, and you can drive home any new Chevrolet or Geo. $20 will deliver the car, just like that.
You give them $20, they give you any new Chevrolet or Geo, and your first payment isn't due for 90 days. For example, with this Lumina, you'll save way more than $1,000 over the Ford Taurus, and $20 delivers. So get a new Chevy, 20 bucks, and pay nothing for 90 days. Nothing, no check writing, none.
The penalty is a slash of Sergio Momesso. It was away from the play, right there at the bottom of your screen. Jeff Chicken was tied up behind the net, so Momesso is off. The Flyers get a chance to show us their power play here with 14-16 to go in the first.
Last 5 games, the Flyers have picked up the power play quite a bit. They're 5 for the last 19, so they're right around the 25% category. The Blues have been splendid in penalty killing, 4th in the league overall. In the last 33 shorthanded situations, they've only yielded 2 goals. That's over a 7-game span. That's really good. Kartner with a toss back over for Gord Murphy. The Flyers up front will use Ricci as well as Pocket and also Pelle Eklund. Kartner moves ahead, denied by Paul Cavallini, flipped it back for a second try, and Cavallini got it too, and this time he sent it all the way down.
You get a good indication of how the Blues have been successful killing penalties. Pressure all the way. As soon as the Flyers crossed, Cavallini was right there.
Ricci couldn't control, just lost it off his stick, and a collision at the front of the net as Eklund fires one, and that deflected wide. A couple of Blues tangled up. Jablonski was locked up in the goal crease for a moment with Basson. Pocket puts one in front, and that deflected wide. Shuttled back out by Scott Stevens and all the way down. Penalty time is down now to 1 minute to go on the minor to Momesso. That was a slash at 5:44. No score in the game. 13-10 left in the first. Along with Bill Clement, Mike Emmerich from the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Glad you've joined us tonight. Puck ahead from Craven to Mellenby. Gets by. Save made by Jablonski. There'll be a penalty coming up against the Blues, and the Flyers will emerge from this with a 5-on-3. Flyers with 2 tremendous chances. The Blues have had 1, but neither team has scored.
Drixol is. Sudafed isn't. Drixol is. Contact isn't. Drixol is. Actifed isn't. Drixol is. Of all the things you can buy for a cold, Drixol is the only 12-hour medicine that was once a prescription and is still available in its original prescription strength. Dimetap isn't. Drixol is. Tylenol Cold isn't. Drixol is. Coadvil isn't. Drixol is. Dristan isn't. Drixol is.
Well, big opportunity for the Flyers here. They go on a 5-on-3 power play because of the hook by Dave Lowry, number 10 of the Blues, on Scott Mellenby. Beautiful pass from Murray Craven. Once Mellenby had found the seam and was rocketing through it. So there's Lowry. He joins Momesso. 43 seconds to go on Momesso's penalty. That's how much time the Flyers will have in their 5-on-3.
5 for 11 on 5-on-3s this year are the Flyers. The Blues have killed off 7 of the 8 that they faced this season. Craven, Conkin, and Eklund with Kartner and Murphy in back, and it's worked to Gord Murphy, then over for Kartner. Kartner back to Murphy again. Hurries it over for Pelle Eklund. Penalty time on the first one is down to 33 seconds. Eklund still looking, has Pocket at the front. Set over for Kartner, tip loose, good recovery. Back to Murphy, then across for Eklund, and it went off his stick. Caught that by Stevens, and Stevens fires it around and all the way back down. And boy, is that a big clear for the Blues, as they have now 15 seconds to kill on the Momesso flag.
And, you know, as the Flyers brought the attack to the Blues, moving the puck around, they closed in. You know what? That triangle seemed as if there were 5 players in it. The Flyers didn't have any seams. They had no room to work because they kept moving in, moving in.
The set for Murphy, and the shot deflected away by Stevens. Penalty time on the first minor is up. Now it's a 5-on-4 for the Flyers. Craven trying to worm his way through, can't do it. Pelle Eklund back behind the goal. Left it out for Craven, but it's denied by Stevens, and he hammers one all the way back down. So a good early kill by the Blues. They've taken care of the one St. Louis minor penalty, and still the time left on the Lowry hook is 55 seconds. Flyers ahead, but the pass was too far for Mellenby and brought in offside by Kjell Samuelsson. If you've yet to get a copy of the Flyers' 1991 calendar, you don't know what you're missing. And we don't know what we're missing. We're going to tell you about that later. We want to tell you about the limited number of 12-game playoff strips available, and you can order these 215-465-4500 during normal business hours. All major credit cards are accepted, and all orders will be filled on a first-come, first-served basis. You can call 215-465-4500 during normal business hours for playoff tickets.
And ask them how you can get a calendar while you're doing that.
We've just got all kinds of fun things to sell here. I think we should set up a display between periods, and we'll point to them and give you the prices and everything.
And we'll continue to try and sell them in order.
Harold snap flips. Barron able to keep. Checked off by Wilson. And the puck winds up underneath Ron Wilson until play once again is halted.
You know, when you take a look at these two teams in the matchup tonight, the St. Louis Blues have more points than Paul Holmgren and his troops have at this stage of the season. But you know, with Holmgren's work ethic that has been passed on to his players, and Brian Sutter's work ethic, which also has been passed on to the St. Louis Blues, the challenge tonight is outworking the guy opposite you. And that's a big challenge. Knowing how hard the Flyers have been working lately, and you know how hard the St. Louis Blues have been working lately, there will not be many players after this game that will feel like jumping on their 10 speed and knocking off 100 kilometers.
You know, down the stretch, and you and I have talked about this a lot, you start to think ahead towards playoffs, especially if you're secure in a berth. The Blues have a playoff berth clinched already, and they did that a week or so ago. As to who you don't want to play, I would think that if the Blues and Chicago were asked, they would both like to play Detroit in the first round and certainly wouldn't want to play the North Stars the way Minnesota is starting to go now.
Yeah, especially after what we saw in Minnesota on Tuesday night. Everybody agreed, including the Flyers coaching staff, that the Minnesota North Stars are the most underrated team at this stage of the season that they have played all year long.
Minnesota came up with 13 February points and one of the 5 best teams since the All-Star break. Hartford is another one. Along now is Rick Tocchet trying to pull away from Wilson, then heads behind the goal. Tocchet just working the outside. Penalty time is up. The teams are back at full strength, and the Blues have successfully killed off another 5-on-3 and a 5-on-4 to boot. Heath Acton back to Samuelson. One-timer is dubbed. The Blues hustle back out. Lowry wedged right off by Samuelson, and so Kartner can take over with 10:40 to go in the first period of our game. In case you're just joining us, we have no score. Blues with 3 shots and the Flyers with just 1. Around it comes for Jablonski out of Toledo, Ohio, to set it up for Cavallini. That's Paul Cavallini. Back up the wing now comes Brindamore. As Adam Oates breaking, slots it over for Hull. Nice pass to Paul Cavallini. Shot snuffed out by Smith. Worked back to Dirk, though, and his shot was blocked away by Fenves. And Fenves just slugs it back out for Dirk to play to Hull, and then right back across for Paul Cavallini again. Brushed loose by Samuelson. We've seen a good deal of play between the blue lines, haven't we? Walking back in now with it and passing off with Hull. This one scooped up by Samuelson, though. Puts it on the stick of Norman Lacombe, and Lacombe will float it back in. Jablonski with the tap. Paul Cavallini with the take. 9:50 left in the scoreless first period. Pass too far for Hull. Drilled right back on by Fenves. Going to get it now is Robert Dirk. Dirk took the check, but got it over for Oates. Defended well by Mellanby, but on they come with it. It's Brindamore pivoting. Nice puck control, and then he goes down. Tried to grab it and cover up, and we get a stoppage of play, and because he did it there, the faceoff will be outside.
Well, gone are the days when the St. Louis Blues had to play a rope-a-dope style on the road, and that was as recently as 2 years ago, where they had to grind it out, wait for you to really beat yourselves with mistakes. Now they've got the #1 sniper in all of hockey, Brett Hull. Not bad for a 6th-round pick in 1984. He was the 117th player chosen overall that year in the draft by the Calgary Flames out of the University of Minnesota Duluth. Even when he was traded, he was accused of being a guy that really didn't care and didn't work that hard. Great article in the Daily News Friday by Ray Didinger, and quoted Brett Hull as saying that's always bothered him.
Good hard drive handled by Hextall. Courtnall behind fed one that Berube took over. Berube moving out with Mellanby, and the pass just ricocheted off Scott Stevens. Back for Courtnall. Collision between Courtnall and Berube, and walking ahead with it is Tilley. Tilley eyed up by Fenves, put it right in on goal, and Hextall blocked that one away. It is Fenves patrolling for the Flyers' defense to Mellanby, right back out for Ron Sutter. Sutter spins it in. Jablonski out of his goal to just paddle it along. First one there will be Scott Mellanby. Mellanby pivoting, taken to the wall by Tilley. Puck knocked loose by Ronning, tried to lift it further, and it turned back out, and the Blues will take this moment to get a shift change on as Murray Barron nearly lost it to Jeff Courtnall. Right back to Barron again, connects back ahead with Craig Berube. Berube lost it off his stick, and Ricci didn't see it. Now can corral it and try to get something going for the Flyers here, who have been held to just 1 shot through 11.5 minutes of this first period. Puck tipped loose off of Murphy, walked ahead by Courtnall. Big drive, and that handled by Hextall. Courtnall certainly didn't get all he wanted on that one. It is Eklund again. Kelly Eklund with a pass across 2 lines to Mike Ricci, and play is stopped. 8:15 to go in the first period. 2 goaltenders have been strong so far. No score.
Hold it. it. Ho, ho, ho. So you're going to finally meet Cindy, huh? Tonight. Good. So first impressions are very important. I think. Okay. Now, imagine. Lights are low, the music's soft. Knock the door opens up. Somebody's out there doing this. What is this? She's got dandruff? No, you have dandruff. No. Yes, you do. I shampoo every day. You shampoo your brains out with regular shampoo. Wouldn't matter. Brains out? Yeah, well, so use that. Head and Shoulders? Works for me, my friend. But you don't have dandruff. Exactamundo!
Head and Shoulders, because you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
You talk about congestion in the neutral zone. 3 Flyers on this play come crashing together. Nothing that a box of Sudafeds wouldn't clear up, but that's all kinds of action in the neutral zone, and you would expect that between these two teams.
You saw the reason for the huge ovation, and a lot of prayers answered. Some are cautious about saying that it really still much more needs to be settled yet, but guys, what a load taken off the shoulders of so many family members and people who have loved ones overseas with the events of this past very eventful and busy week in our world's history. Ricci able to wedge this one along. Tocchet there to get it. Flings it back out for Pelly Eklund. Now this is a 2-on-2. He's got Barron moving along with him. Eklund crosses. Leads for Tocchet. Back for Eklund, though. Eklund one-timed one, and it went wide. Around the board, Gord Murphy. One-timer deflected in front off Jablonski. Picked up by Tocchet. Tocchet spinning. Locked up for a moment, then lost for Harold Snepps, and it's tipped back out. Terry Karkner once more. Turns it along for Tocchet. Very hard to get much of an offensive rush going against this team. And the Flyers actually have the better of the 2 defensive records, although they're so close. The difference between the two is rather minuscule, a 3.08 for the Flyers and a 3.12 goals against average for St. Louis.
So there's the senior citizen on this St. Louis Blues team leaving the ice, number 5, Harold Snepps. He plays with Mario Marois, number 44. Between them, a mere 29 years of NHL experience. Harry's been in the league for 16 years. He's 36 years old. Marois has been in the league 13 years. He's 33 years old. So you ain't going to beat them with your brains. If they've been around that long, they know how to play the game. They're smart players. You might have to beat them with your legs, and that would be the logical way to go about doing it.
Remember earlier this year, one of the Red Wings said, everybody on our team likes Harold, and Harold is well-liked around the league, but we have to learn to play tough against him. Just because we like him, we still have to go out and play hard. This was after they'd been beaten by St. Louis, and I think they were looking for some excuses. Ahead now, Scott Stevens on to Hall. His shot went off of Karkner, scooped up by Hextall, had some trouble with it, though, put it back near Brett Hull, rolled behind and trying to pivot loose. Able to do it is Brind'Amour, wanted to get it to Hull in front. Along now for Brind'Amour again, and this one cut off by Terry Karkner. Flips it ahead for Chris Jensen. Moving on with Axon and Kushner. Denied at the line, though. Boy, the Blues are just like a wall, aren't they? Hall with a pass ahead to Adam Oates. In shot, score! Adam Oates from Hall, and the Blues have gotten on the board first.
Well, T. Paxton's not a happy man. Remember I said that T. Paxton had an assignment to be Velcroed right to Adam Oates? He wasn't on this play, and this is kind of a reverse deal. You expect Oates to make that beautiful play to Brett Hull, but it worked the other way perfectly for the Blues. Brett Hull can do it all. I mean, he is known, obviously, for his shot, but he put that puck through a seam right on Adam Oates' stick, and you can see that Adam Oates, while he only has a handful of goals relative to Hull, that's his 20th goal. Hull has 69. You see that given the chance, he could put him away with the best. He had his head up, picked the spot. I still don't know where it went. I think it might have gone between Ron Hextall's legs. But the Blues, on a beautiful play, lead the Flyers 1-0.
Since the All-Star break, counting that goal, Oates has 48 points in 18 and a fraction games. This is the 19th since the All-Star break. Hull hasn't even played the ball. He sat out 2 with an ankle problem. He has 38 points in 16 and a fraction games. So since the All-Star break, they've just been at breakneck pace, averaging over 2 points a game apiece. And Oates pushing toward the 3 mark.
And you know what's incredible is that you know every team they play against is focusing on them defensively.
Absolutely. And a lot of those games, over half, have been away from home, where they don't get the last line change. As is the case tonight, as you see the pair together, 12 Oates and 16 Hull.
You know that a couple of hours after the All-Star game in Chicago, in a hotel room hallway, Adam Oates told me that he had been robbed of 2 assists during the All-Star game. He was credited with a goal and 4 assists. He said, you know, I really should have had 2 more. And you don't go and ask for assists in All-Star games, but that would have been an All-Star game record. A goal and 6 assists for 7 points, but he was only credited with a goal and 4.
Well, the All-Star game sure turned things for Adam Oates. He was doing well at the start, but right out of the All-Star game, he had a 5-assist game, followed by a 4-assist game, and then a 3. 12 assists in 3 games. Craven a shot, and that turned aside by Jablonski, then ripped around where Paul Cavallini is. Run into by Mellenby. Craven trying to reach it, too. Craven just foisted one to the front, and Jablonski fired it right back near the traffic again, but they got a St. Louis bounce this time, and it's brought by Darren Kimball, and just tossed wide of Hextall. Chikrin pawing there with Jeff Courtnall. Craven comes in, too, giving a little brush check from behind by Wilson. Courtnall wraps one around, going to get it at Fences. Tips it over for Chikrin once more. Gave it away at the point, kept by Dirk and dumped behind. Hextall has to go back to play. Tries the other side, hoping for Berube, but instead Kimball in the way. Has to deal with Fences. 5:22 to go, first period. Blues have the lead 1-0. Oates is 20th from Hull at 13:20. Hull had the only assist on that. Ahead with it comes Scott Mellenby along with Berube once more. Taps it off and goes to get it. Locked right up by Dirk. Well, I don't know if it's simplifying things too much, but the Blues seem to really play a lot alike every line, as there was nearly a giveaway there. Puck came over for Murphy, and that's blocked off by Wilson.
You know the one guy that doesn't play alike like everybody else? The guy that just went right in front of his net, Jeff Courtnall.
Yeah.
He's the one guy that doesn't fit into the Blues mold.
Everyone seems to let that one go, and finally Ron Wilson asserts himself and sends the puck back down the ice for an icing call that will freeze the scoreboard clock with 4:41 to go in the first period of our game tonight. Glad you've joined us in this St. Louis 1-0 lead.
This is silly. It isn't like there's not enough room. He always has to drive.
Driving the Mazda Protege is so enjoyable, people don't think of it as a compact car.
Why do we go through this every time?
Maybe I drive too fast.
He drives so slow.
But while the Protege may have room for 5, unfortunately, there's only room for 1 driver.
Next time, we take 1 car.
Yeah, ours.
The Mazda Protege.
Headed down the stretch, we were talking briefly about the Blues schedule. They're away for 3. This is the first of the 3. They come back home for 4, are away for 5, and then back home for 3. And all action is in the Eastern 2 time zones, the Central and the Eastern time zone, so they won't have a lot of long travel. They don't have that much in the way of back-to-back games either. Hilly with a pass back across for Scott Stevens, and Stevens will shuttle it ahead to Hull. Gave it up to Kartner. Tripped up, though, did Kartner on Adam Oates, and the puck skipped off him. All of this is on a delayed offside right now. It's broken as the Flyers pass back out. Eklund trying to maneuver ahead. Can't get by, and it's Tilly taking over. Tilly right back on for Brett Hall once more. Then up for Stevens. Has Brindamore up the wing, hands over to Oates. Oates crossing, watched by Kartner, gave it up to Samuelson. Off the heel of the skate of Tocchet, picked up by Pelle Eklund. Just over 4 minutes to go as he wedges it back in. Tilly goes in to get it. Got out of the way of most of the hit from Tocchet, but took a real reach job from Ricci. Kartner trying to keep it in. Lost it to Hull, and we get a stoppage of play as the puck must have bounced off one of the Blues sitting at the bench as it popped up. Otherwise, the Blues would have been away on a big rush.
Well, we are talking about 2 teams here tonight that have improved in the standings, and for a very good reason. Very often we link defensive rankings to success in the points. And here's what these teams have done. The Flyers, the most improved team along with Chicago. Flyers gone from 15th to second best defensively. That's a plus 13 in the rankings. Chicago plus 13. Los Angeles from 18th to 6th is a plus 12. And believe it or not, you drop all the way down to St. Louis. They are the 4th most improved team defensively, having moved from 8th last year to 5th currently overall. And after that, everybody is +1, +2, and there are a lot of minuses down there, too.
Well, that supports your theory that defensive hockey is a very hard thing for coaches to sell, especially if you have a team like Los Angeles that's excelled in the offensive game for so long, because the guys make their money off the big offense.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that the breakthrough came for Tom Webster last season when L.A. knocked off Calgary in the first round with team defense. They finally proved to themselves what they were capable of doing when they kept the puck out of their net and didn't worry as much about putting it in at the other end.
Here is Lacombe. Nice move to step away from one, gets away from a second, but the whole play went asunder at the blue line, and so we get an offside call. We'll return to the Spectrum in Philadelphia with more action after this.
Warning, cold starts can be tough on your car's engine because your motor oil might not reach some of its parts for a full minute. Facts. Independent lab tests confirm whether it's 35 below zero or 50 above. Quaker State 10W30 gets to all your engine parts faster than other leading 10W30s. At 40 degrees, it's 3 times faster. So don't let cold starts make it tough on your engine. Get Quaker State. It's one tough motor oil.
Well, this is what the crowd should look like in Tampa when the Lightning get rolling in a couple of years. Tanned blonde.
The Lightning and the Ottawa Senators as well, and San Jose next year. So the league will eventually be 24. 28 by the end of the decade. Who knows how quickly. Paul Cavallini turns it on a cross. Nice pivot move by Momesso to drop it in deep. Hextall comes out of his goal to get that one. Swings it along off the stick of Norm Lacombe. Good recovery, but he gave it up to Dirk. And so Hextall, who's been behind his net a lot to take care of St. Louis dumps tonight, has to try to play it again. Blues able to keep this in. Paul Cavallini knocked down, but Ronning feeds back to Momesso. Big shot, and that one deflected wide. A good chance there for the Blues, and Momesso came through with a screamer. Puck back out now for Lacombe, then over for Ron Sutter. Just plays it back in. Flyers have made a change. Berube goes storming to the corner. Has Paul Cavallini in his sights, but he got out of the way. Chychrun with a shot, and his stick shattered on that one. He scored against Calgary once that way, but not this time. Lowry taken down from behind by Craven, and up with this now is Fenves. Fenves lays it back ahead onto the stick of Scott Mellanby. Flips it back across, and Craven able to gingerly handle it around that broken Chychrun stick. Mellanby rocked to the boards well behind the net by Basson. Now trying to center one in front was Berube. Down to the ice went Mellanby. Fans wanted a penalty, but ahead now comes Marois. Mariel Marois just drops it back in. Hextall out to get it, and Basson right on him, so he has to hurry. Gave it up to Rich Sutter. Checked by Fenves. Good hit by Craven, but it came along now for Berube to nudge back out for Mellanby. Flyers in the midst of a defensive chain. Fenves ahead, maneuvers to the corner, and is rocked right off by Marois. Oh, Marois goes flying after being hit by Mellanby. Berube cannons one, and that one blocked away by Sness. And slow to get up is Mario Marois. He seems to be hurt all the way back down the ice. Is now, just now, getting over the Blues bench. And a collision back at the other end of the ice, and the fans complaining about that. Pelle Eklund moving ahead, trying to get through the defensive Stevens on to Ricci. Fed for Tocchet, tipped away. Came right to Ricci, backhander knocked down. And Tilly, who got the backhander, also gets the puck but can't clear. Ricci again in the last minute 20 of the period. On for Scott Stevens. Ricocheted one off Tocchet. Flyer forechecking paying off now. And Jablonski finally able to reach out with that right hand and just plump the glove on the puck at the back of the goal.
Boy, good pressure by the Flyers. They were all over St. Louis. And they're doing it the way they have to do it against St. Louis. If you don't play the body against these guys, you're not using your number one asset, especially when you hit guys like, wow, holy. Right.
I didn't see that at all, did you?
Sure didn't. Sorry about that, Bob. You made me lose my train of thought. He's got at least one, possibly two awful-looking cuts there. Doesn't seem to have thrown him off his game, but the point I was going to make, let's see if we can pick up perhaps when it happened. He was buzzing around Shel Samuelson. This is one of the collisions down at the Flyers end. He squashed his face into the board. The St. Louis Blues are winning hockey games in spite of the fact that they've got centermen that are smaller than can really, than they should be winning with. We'll go over their sizes when we get a chance, but you'll be very surprised at how small the St. Louis Blues are down the middle, and most general managers will tell you, well, you need at least one big guy to check and to be strong defensively. The Blues don't have one.
Brindamore with a pass ahead, went all the way down, and Ron Hextall out to get it as we hit the final 60 seconds of this opening period. Flyers have come up with 5 shots. They've opened up things a little bit through their forechecking game. They were only 1 shot into the first 13 minutes of this contest. The Blues have 7, and the Blues have the lead in the game 1-0 if you're just joining us on an Adam Oates feed from Brett Hall. This is Keith Acton in the last 40 of the period to Eklund and spirited through to Kartner. Moving ahead with Acton. Kartner's pass broken up, started out by Stevens, on now to Brett Hall. Moves in, can he get the cannon going? Defended by Murphy, and a nice job there by Gord Murphy done on Hall so that he couldn't get loose for the shot. 22 seconds to go as it's feathered to Acton, then along for Pelle Eklund again. Drops it for Tocchet, but boy, the Blues were right on him quickly. Paul Cavallini will walk it back ahead in the final 15. Eyed up by check that Barron. Pass broken up by Eklund. Eklund starts ahead. Watched by Snett. The pass to Mellenby was off his skate. 3 seconds to go. Portnoy fires, and that one knocked down by Murphy as the horn ends this first period of play. The shots remain unchanged. Many of them blocked. 12 went on goal. 7 by the Blues, 5 by the Flyers. Oates is 20th from Hall, the only assist at 13-20. 1-0 St. Louis after the first.
Pain from just one sensitive tooth can start the domino effect, a chain reaction that can end in tooth loss. The pain can make you stop brushing, lead to plaque buildup, gingivitis, periodontal disease, even tooth loss. Sensodyne toothpaste helps stop the pain and the domino effect. Dentists recommend Sensodyne most for sensitive teeth. And Sensodyne is now available in a pump. Help stop the pain and the domino effect with Sensodyne.
Head and Shoulders for my serious dandruff? Blue is better. Extra medicated Selsun Blue.
With a medicine doctors recommend most. Medicine that relieves flaking better than Head and Shoulders.
Blue is better.
Selsun Blue, doctor recommended #1.
In 1918, a small team of GE engineers set a new high-altitude record for an aircraft engine. What made it unusual was that they did it without an airplane. Back then, no plane could fly high enough to test a new turbo-supercharged engine. So they did the next best thing. They halted 14,000 feet up Pikes Peak. After several fits and starts, this remarkable new engine roared to life. And it is the same ingenuity and team spirit that has brought GE from America's first jet engine to the world's most advanced.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you look out the left side of the cabin, you'll see Pikes Peak.
Which proves when people work together, there's no telling to what heights they can soar.
Extra strength Rolaids antacid. Stronger because it has more calcium carbonate, more than any Tums tablet, and salt-free. More calcium carbonate and salt-free. This settles it once and for all.
There are a couple of keys to playing Brett Hull one-on-one. First of all, you have to stand up on him. Don't back in so he can get his shot away. Having that 36-inch sleeve helped, too. Gordon Murphy was able to steer Brett Hull to the corner and then pin him against the board so he couldn't get back into the play. Hull didn't score in the first period, but made a beautiful pass on the Blues' only goal.
A lot of times you talk about games being those of missed opportunity. This seemed to be a game thus far of no opportunity at all. Neither team seems to be allowing the other that much.
Well, I think the Flyers were especially guilty of trying to finesse too much against St. Louis. St. Louis plays a very tight game. You mentioned there's not much room in the neutral zone. To me, that means that the finesse pass becomes obsolete. It's a dinosaur immediately. I mean, no room means that there's close man-to-man coverage, so those little fancy finesse passes don't cut it. Cross the blue line, get the puck on the net, drive for rebounds. That's how you open things up against good defensive teams.
And good defensive teams usually have low-scoring games. That's what we're set up here with tonight. The team tied for second in defense against the Blues, the team that is fifth best, and the Blues have the advantage here at the end of the first period by a score of 1-0.
Got a painful cold? Gotta get relief? Get Alka-Seltzer Plus cold medicine. It relieves painful cold symptoms some others miss with a decongestant, antihistamine, and a pain reliever you can't find in any other leading cold medicine.
The pain's gone. I can breathe.
Everything feels better, better, better.
Alka-Seltzer Plus cold medicine. Relief for your painful cold. And now, for sinus and allergy relief, try new Alka-Seltzer Plus sinus allergy medicine.
Extra strength Rolaids antacid. Stronger because it has more calcium carbonate, more than any Tums tablet, and salt-free. More calcium carbonate and salt-free. This settles it once and for all.
Only one antiperspirant in the world helps keep you so dry with the cool, clean scent of Old Spice. Only one deodorant in the world has so many odor-fighting ingredients with the cool, clean scent of Old Spice. There's only one Old Spice.
He looks like anyone else you'd pass on the street.
Give me your money now.
Except, no problem. He has a slight attitude.
Hey, Terminator, Kaiser Golden Fist. You're a dead man.
He has no gun, no fear, no equal. No problem. Jeff Speakman is the perfect weapon. Rated R. Starts Friday, March 15th at theaters everywhere.
Come on, you guys. We're going to be late. So what? We're just going to lose again anyway.
The Mazda MPV four-wheel drive can help you get just about anywhere you want to go.
Let's go home.
Its V6 engine and rear anti-lock brakes let you handle even the worst weather with confidence.
Face it, Mom. We stink. Hey, where's that team spirit, huh?
Hey, Gail. The other team couldn't make it. You guys win by forfeit.
The Mazda MPV four-wheel drive.
It's the weather sheet, Dad. We can take the title.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Sports Channel Studios in New York. I'm C.J. Pappas. 7 other games on the slate. Let's begin in Boston. For the Bruins, their nightmares happen in the afternoon. Boston has had problems with matinee meetings in recent seasons. Today was no different as Buffalo clinches a playoff berth with a 7-4 victory. At the Boston Garden, the Sabres extend their unbeaten streak to 5 here. Alexander Mogilny, a shorthanded goal, and it's 3-2 Sabres in the second period, his 23rd of the year. Moments later, Glenn Wesley's shot is stopped. But Bob Sweeney notching the rebound from a bad angle. We're tied at 3. 42 seconds later, Pierre Turgeon deflects Kevin Howler's point shot, and it's 4-3 Sabres. A minute 19 later, the Bruins tied on a power play. Ken Hobbs Jr. finds a loose puck and fires it in the net. We're tied at 4, but Buffalo regains the lead. Rob Ray with a quick shot. Look at the fog on a warm day in Boston, and it's 5-4 Sabres after 2. Third period still 5-4 when Dale Hawerchuk finds a wide-open Nico Makala. He one-times at home 6-4. The final was 7-4 Sabres, 66 points is 3 better than Hartford and 8 back of Montreal. They reached 500 overall and on the road. Montreal shut out the Oilers on January 2nd. They're hoping to do it again. First period, no score. Canadians are 1-4-2 in their last 7. With a winner or tie, the Whalers seal the 4th and final playoff spot in the Adams. This will be their 4th straight year. The Nordiques will miss out on the playoffs. Right now, Kip Mueller with a goal, and it's 1-0 Quebec in the first period. The only team that has a realistic shot of being passed by Quebec is Toronto. The Maple Leafs won't be playing out the string since their #1 pick is owned by New Jersey. Tonight, the Rangers are at Maple Leaf Gardens, where Toronto has a league-high 20 losses, no score in the first period. Rangers winless in their last 6 road games. Washington is 4 back of the Devils in the race for the final playoff spot in the Patrick. Watch Mike Ridley hit the post on a power play, and this one's scoreless. Until late in the first period, Pat LaFontaine pokes one in, number 36, and the Islanders lead it 1-0. End of the first period, that's where it is. Calgary needs a win or a tie to clinch its 16th consecutive playoff berth. They haven't missed out since they were in Atlanta back in the 74-75 season. Minnesota leads it 1-0 in the first period. Winnipeg and Los Angeles, a 10:35 start. The Kings have won 6 straight. They're hot. They're in first place. They lead Calgary by 4 points in the Smythe division. This is the 4th time that the Kings will play Winnipeg in their last 5 games. The Kings are 4-1-2 versus the Jets this season. The Jets are 8-19-6 on the road. That's it for now. I'm C.J. Papa. Back to the Spectrum after this timeout.
Follow America's top amateur athletes as they set their sights on Olympic gold. The U.S. Olympic Showcase, only on the Sports Channel America Network.
Still be worth every minute. But in Alabama, you'll find one surprise after another. Enough surprises to fill a vacation. Enough memories to last a lifetime. For your free book of surprises, call us toll-free right now. Alabama. Special moments you want to keep forever.
Sports Sports Channel presents RCA Sports Blunder Video Contest. Have your funniest home sports videos shown on TV and win valuable prizes. Each month, we'll give away a 20-inch RCA Color TV, 2 tickets to a pro or college sporting event, and a Sports Channel T-shirt. Each month's first prize winner will compete for an RCA home theater. Call 1-800-825-YOU-WIN for complete contest rules. Or send your entries to RCA Sports Blunder Video Contest. P.O. Box 555, Emerson, New Jersey, 07630. Contest ends June 28, 1991.
St. Louis Blues lead this one 1-0 at the end of one, but that doesn't mean the Flyers didn't have their chances. They had power play chances. The first one was a 5-on-4, and we'll pick it up right here with Mike Ricci breaking in, trying to do something on Pat Jablonski. What I want you to watch for here is the problem Jablonski ends up having. Tocchet piles into him, so does Bob Basson. Basson is stuck now between Jablonski's legs. We'll stop right here and show you that Basson is on all fours trying to get up. Jablonski has one leg on one side, one leg on the other, but the Flyers couldn't take advantage of it. Eklund's shot went wide. But now the Flyers get a chance to do something. Comes back to the point to Murphy. And we'll stop right here and show you the Blues a little too aggressive killing penalties. One guy is on Carter, one guy is on Murphy. You want to talk about a seam pass? Look at this seam. If the Flyers can get it here to Craven, they can get it over here to Tocchet, and they execute it perfectly. Murphy to Craven, over here to Tocchet. He tried to push it through. It just didn't work, and the Blues were able to get it out of the zone. Then it was a 5-on-3 for the Flyers. First things first, Craven wins the faceoff. During the period, I talked about the Flyers closing in on the triangle. I want to show you what I was talking about. They spread it out pretty good right about now. We'll stop, and I want to connect the outer guys of the Flyers' attack. See how far apart they are with those lines? Now watch what happens as they move in, trying to work it around for a shot. They're simply going to get closer and closer to the guys that are in the triangle for the Blues. And we can stop here right now. Now I'll join them again. See how much smaller this configuration is? When you do that, these 3 guys can hit that guy, this guy, or this guy. It seems like there are 5 guys out there. Don't get me wrong, the Blues did a good job of killing this one, but the Flyers helped them. Finally, Scott Stevens was able to get it out of the zone. Okay, we have talked about the Keith Acton-Adam Oates matchup, and this will be the Adam Oates goal. At this point, Keith Acton has Adam Oates, but here's what is happening. The Flyers are going to go on offense. That means Keith Acton has the green light to go on offense. But Scott Mellamy makes a decision here that's kind of puzzling. We'll stop right here and we'll show you that it's a 2-on-2. Acton's got enough speed really to split the seam here. That's what I was talking about. Flyers got to take advantage of their speed, dump and chase. Acton receives the puck here at a bad time. He's poke-checked. He's caught. We'll stop right here and show you that Brett Hull is now curling around, and Dale Kushner, for some reason, is moving back to try and catch Adam Oates instead of concentrating on Hull. When Hull spins around, we can stop here and we'll show you there is not much room, but without Kushner looking back, Hull puts a perfect pass on Adam Oates' stick. No mistake. His 20th goal of the season gave the Blues a 1-0 lead, and it stayed that way. Moments away from the second period. Don't go away.
Announcing a revolutionary new concept in fitness at home. One that will change the way you look, feel, and live. Introducing the Nordic Fitness Chair by Nordic Track. There's never been anything like it before. It's a comfortable chair with an attractive appearance that transforms into a complete health club workout. It gives you strength to enjoy life to the fullest. By simply adjusting the chair's arms into 5 different positions, you can do over 20 different exercises. The Nordic Fitness Chair Basic 6 program lets you enhance your upper body strength in just 10 minutes a day, 3 times a week. It helps you more comfortably meet daily challenges. If you're looking for an advanced workout, the Nordic Fitness Chair offers 14 additional exercises, as well as sports-specific training. Golfers can add yards to their drive off the tee. By simulating a forehand movement, tennis enthusiasts can add power to their game on the court. The Nordic Fitness Chair works all of your muscles, tightening, toning, and shaping them. It gives you a nicely conditioned body, the kind you've always dreamed of. Best of all, the Nordic Fitness Chair automatically adjusts to any fitness level to help you achieve almost any fitness goal, safely and effectively. It helps you get through the day with strength and energy to spare, and brings an improved quality of life to your entire family. The Nordic Fitness Chair by Nordic Track. Strength training from the comfort and convenience of your very own home. Try the Nordic Fitness Chair in your home for 30 days with no risk or obligation. For a free video and brochure, call today. Make a decision now to change your life forever.
If this were the only reason to come to Alabama, it'd still be worth every minute. But in Alabama, you'll find one surprise after another. Enough surprises to fill a vacation. Enough memories to last a lifetime. For your free book of surprises, call us toll-free right now. Alabama. Special moments you want to keep forever.
The telestrated goal that Bill showed you is the only one that's been scored in the game. Hull found Oates. Oates found the goal. 20th time this year. For Adam Oates, that became point number 91. A lot of shots normally after the first period, but we don't see that many on that board tonight after 20 minutes.
That's for sure. The Blues only attempted 11 shots. The Flyers attempted 16. 7 of the Blues shots made it to Ron Hextall. 5 of the Flyers got through. And only 5 total quality shots in the first period. 43% of the shots for the Blues were quality, but big deal. There were only 3 of them. 2 for the Flyers.
They're adding an assist here. Stevens also gets an assist on the Adam Oates goal, so that should read Oates' 20th from Hull and Stevens at 13-20. You saw Pat Jablonski, now Ron Hextall, the two masked protagonists in this game that sees the Blues making up the game in hand that they have on the Chicago Blackhawks for the Norris Division and the overall President's Trophy lead in the NHL. And remember how all season long the Flyers have seen the rest of the division have games in hand on them while entering tonight's play. The Flyers, the Rangers, the Penguins, the Devils, and the Islanders had 14 games left, Washington 15. So everything starts to filter down, and the many games in hand the rest of the division had have pretty well evaporated by this point in the year. After the action tomorrow night, there'll be just 4 weeks to go in the season of 26 weeks. And then come the 8 weeks of the Stanley Cup playoffs. It is Stevens flipping. That one bounces right back out for Murray Barron to handle. He and Gord Murphy matched up and played some catch up the wing. Eklund held back, but Tocchet wasn't. Moves in. He's got a cannon. Beats in front of touch. Score! Beautiful play! Ricci from Murray Barron. From Rick Tocchet. 1-1.
What a play from Mike Ricci's 20th goal. Super execution, first of all, by Tocchet. And we have talked for the last month about Murray Barron and his speed, his ability to get up on the play. He made it all happen. Once Tocchet jogged to his right, Barron kept going. And I thought for a second Rick Tocchet was going to wind up right here to shoot. But boy, he made a nice decision. Perfect to Barron. Barron to Ricci. I'm not sure which view that was on Mike Ricci, but he was late getting to him. Mike Ricci, 20th goal of the season. I think that was Rod Brindamore that was beside him, and that's unusual. He's a pretty good defensive player.
Ricci is 20th from Barron and Tocchet at 33 seconds, and the game is tied at 1. Back up now comes Hull. Finesses right through, and a shot answered by Hextall. Rebound, score! Getting the goal out of the net mouth. Scramble for the rebound was Rod Brindamore, and just that quickly the Blues have gotten back in front.
You know, we were talking today about how Brett Hull has turned into more than just a trigger man. Craig Hartsburg and I were talking, the assistant coach of the Flyers, about how Brett can go end to end. What a perfect example of this. He hooped Terry Kartner. Wow, did he go around and fast. Got the shot away. Of course, he gets it away quicker than anybody in the game. He had Brindamore breaking for the rebound. Didn't even have time to blink there. How much time was there between those 2 goals, or do we even know yet? 16 seconds.
So Hull with the second primary assist that he's collected in the game tonight. Blues have the lead 2-1. We'll pick up the official scoring for you in a moment, but here they come again. Brindamore had that one blocked down by Oates, who will carry back in. And Hull was just surrounded by 3 Flyers. Derek Smith watching him the most tightly as you watch play develop near Shel Samuelson. Tipped back out again by Sutter, and on comes Derek Smith, tested from behind. And boy, did Brett Hull ever get back to do a defensive number that time. Brindamore rocked to the boards by Lacombe. Blues just toss it back out. Hull, the lone assist, at least that was the case in the first period before they added one. And this appears to be the only assist awarded on the Brindamore goal. Brindamore's 15th at 49 seconds. On comes Ron Sutter, denied though by Gino Cavallini. Remember, Bill mentioned you can't do that much in the way of fancy Dan play with the Blues so strong defensively. Oates tries to play it across for the breaking Gino Cavallini, but Samuelson came up with a strong defensive play. Back up with this now comes Murray Craven again. Watched by Paul Cavallini and just calmly forced to the outside. Puck gloved and held for the longest time by Oates. Now Paul Cavallini ahead to brother Gino. Eyed up by Fenves. Gino Cavallini taken to the corner. Hustling in is Momesso, but Chikrin got there first, though he didn't get it. Momesso emerging. Chikrin took him to the board. Berube ties up his man, and the scrum continues along the wall. Chikrin moves back sort of as an afterthought and sees the puck. Plays it to Mellenby, then up for Craven. Craven pass on to Craig Berube for a shot. Oh, a good hard wrist shot that didn't miss by much. On second period, and both teams having scored in this first 2.5 minutes. Blues have the lead in the game 2-1, thanks to a first period goal by Oates and a second period by Brindamore, sandwiched around an early second period goal by Mike Ricci. 17:15 to go on the second period. On the icing, the clock stops and the Blues with the lead 2-1.
Innocent people are being victimized every day.
Give me your money now, sucker.
No problem. Finally, there is someone to speak for them.
Is there a problem here? You cannot handle this by yourself.
No problem. In his explosive motion picture debut, Jeff Speakman is the perfect weapon. Rated R. Starts Friday, March 15th at theaters everywhere.
You know, given enough time, Craig Berube has a real good wrister, and that didn't miss the outside corner past Jablonski by much.
Some of you saw a 6 flying through there. Here's a giveaway to Pocket, moving right around in front, and he's held back just enough by Stevens so that he couldn't get a shot away. Ellie Eklund able to dance away from Stevens, but denied by Lowry. Then it's reached by Murphy. Hurries a shot that's tipped wide. Well, these two teams, they make a mistake and they cover up for it very quickly. And you saw an example of it not once but twice on that last flourish by the Flyers as the Blues corrected mistakes that they'd made very quickly. Stevens getting the second one of the pair.
Well, Bob Basson is back out there, so I guess he was patched up. Yeah, I thought he was cut in 2 places. You can see it just to the right of his eye and also on the bridge of his nose. But I was talking earlier in the first period about the size of the St. Louis centermen. Basson, 5'10", 180. Ron Wilson, 5'9", 170. Rick Mahar, who's not in uniform tonight, 5. Adam Oates is the giant center for the Blues at 5'11", 190 pounds. They average 5'9", 177 pounds. And you're just not supposed to be in first place overall in the National Hockey League with centermen that are that size.
Textbook says it's wrong, doesn't it?
It says it's wrong, but when you look past the textbook, you see a guy like this out there now, Ron Wilson, small, great skater, excellent defensive instinct. Rick Mahar in the same boat. Ronning, excellent offensive skills. Obviously, Oates with his numbers, excellent offensively. So these guys make up for it, but still, it's 5'11", 190 pounds. They average 5'9", 177 pounds, and you're just not supposed to be in first place overall in the National Hockey League with centermen that are that size.
Textbook says it's wrong, doesn't it?
It says it's wrong, but when you look past the textbook, you see a guy like this out there now, Ron Wilson, small, great skater, excellent defensive instinct. Rick Mahar in the same boat. Ronning, excellent offensive skills. Obviously, Oates with his numbers, excellent offensively. So these guys make up for it, but still, it's going to be tough for them in a real big series against a big team to stay with it, with those little guys.
Here is Wilson ahead. Flips one that went into Murray Barron. Brought right back on by Wilson once more. He's got Stevens. Heads behind. Wilson pivoting. Threw one in front, and Hextall knocked it loose, and on the rebound it's sent wide. His puck picked up by Murphy. Pivots away from Wilson again. Well, this line causing some trouble for the Flyers with their forechecking. Darren Kimball and Courtnall are the wingers. helping Wilson stir things up, and the clock stopped this time on an offside. 16:03 to go in the second. 2-1 Blues. If you've yet to get a copy of that Flyers 1990-91 calendar we were talking about earlier, you don't know what you're missing. Full-color photos, complete TV listings, birthdays of all the players. You can purchase a copy at the Spectrum or any showcase store. Send $5. Flyers calendar, the Spectrum, Philadelphia, 19148. Off the face-off, puck control by the Blues again. Angled right back in by Rich Sutter. Hextall set it up. Terry Kartner pestered, but hands back over for Samuelson. Off the tip of the stick of Eklund. Ahead comes Ricci. Eyed up by Marois. Ricci able to get free. Bumped right off the play by Basson. Samuelson fires one, and that deflected wide. Rebound sent wide again by Harold Snepp. Hoping a teammate could play, but it's Eklund instead. Kartner over to Samuelson. Left the puck behind. Lowry dogging him tightly and forced play back to neutral ice. Here's Lowry staggering on with Rich Sutter. The pass broken up and scooped back out by Kartner, taken by Ricci. Ricci and Tocchet ahead. Right now at 2-on-2, but the rest of the players move in. Pass went by Ricci. Has to play it behind. Defended there by Harold Snepp. Basson goes for it, and Eklund walks free. Tocchet a shot, and that one's fought down by Jablonski, and he'll cover and get a stoppage of play. 15:08 to go in the second period. The Blues still have the lead in the contest, 2-1.
Prodigy makes your PC a powerful tool.
You wouldn't believe the number of uses that it has. I do my shopping at home. I do my banking at home.
I don't have to wait in the line.
I like that part.
Now, how can you beat that? The kids are having fun and they're learning.
My son sent me flowers through Prodigy.
So I can be my own travel agent.
I can use Prodigy for my investments as well.
Prodigy is the online service that connects your computer to news, shopping, sports, and now an encyclopedia. All for only $12.95 per month.
You gotta get this thing.
You gotta get this thing.
Prodigy.
It's in stores everywhere.
The Flyers in this sequence have good pressure on the Blues. Mike Ricci doing great work in the corner. He got some help, some support from Eklund. Who else is Eklund going to look for to pass to except Rich Tocchet? But, you know, the Blues have been able to get their matchup that they've wanted. We have talked about Acton against the Adam Oates line. Against Rick Tocchet, Kelly Eklund, and Mike Ricci, Brian Sutter has that Lowry, Basson, Rich Sutter line. He's had no problem getting the matchup. Obviously, Paul Holmgren is not trying to take these guys away from him yet.
Be interesting to see how that all shakes down once we get into the third period, and normally the bench gets short. Paul Cavallini able to work his way free. It passed on for Hall, but off the tip of the stick of Oates, and the Flyers just dump and chase once more. Around it goes for Jablonski to stop for Paul Cavallini. Wraps it off Hall's stick. Regathered by Murray Barron, then tossed right back across for Murphy to handle. In case you're just joining us, 14:45 to go in the second period of our game. St. Louis ahead of the Flyers by a count of 2-1. Jablonski had to spike that one free because the icing had been, at least he thought it was going to be canceled by the rushing of Ron Sutter, and a good decision to make. Paul Cavallini wheels with it, away from the forechecking of Craven, pass through the middle to Brindamore, moving on with Hall. The drop to Hall, tries to turn by Murphy and can't. The two of them all tap to the puck, and we get a stoppage of play. Terry Frazier pointing back in the center ice area about something. Oh, a net dislodged all the way at the other end. So with that play stopped, and a faceoff will occur near Hextall. Terry Frazier, a left winger in Sarnia for a junior team called the Bees. He and his brother Rick played on the same squad. Saw after a while that maybe he would be limited by size to have a career as an NHL player. Went the officiating route, actually retired from it for a couple of years to get into the clothing business, and came back, and has been back ever since.
Should have tried baseball. He's a pretty good center fielder. Played 4 games with us on our Flyers alumni softball tour last summer. Gets around there pretty good in center field.
How did you get that niche now? Explain that. Are those alumni games that fierce?
Okay. I took the first punch on the nose, but by the time I was able to tie up her throwing arm, I got her down, and I won the fight.
Ahead with this comes Chychrun. Chychrun sails one wide. To the corner, it is Derek Smith bumped off by Ronning. Puck along to Stevens, then for Gino Cavallini. Chychrun a drive. Jablonski rebound. And he's able to hang on. Jablonski pretty quick on that one to cover as the Flyers were trying to barrel their way to the front, but Scott Stevens just wouldn't let his man in.
Well, I don't think anything is going to rattle Pat Jablonski here. When you come in against the Chicago Blackhawks in a huge divisional game, which is what Jablonski did last Tuesday, Oh, it was a quick pad save with traffic in front of him there. That's what Jablonski did when Curtis Joseph went down with a sprained knee. He ended up picking up the win, a 3-1 win over Chicago. You know he's not going to get rattled here.
His father might have been an NHL forward had he been born just a little bit later. Remember seeing his father, Greg Jablonski, a high-scoring forward in the International League, playing in Toledo, Ohio for a team called the Hornets. But this was at a time when the NHL was just moving from 6 teams to a dozen. And a lot of guys that were splendid minor league players never got the chance that guys who are in the minors like the IHL and American League get today. Back stopper, loose puck, score! Lacombe sent it around. Action dashed it home, and the game is tied at 2.
Well, this is nothing more than hard work. And Keith Acton is out here centering the Norm Lacombe, Derek Smith line. Nice move by Lacombe, but Pat Jablonski, he seemed to lose his positioning. When Norm Lacombe came around and tried to suffer, he lost his balance and let it get through him. And Keith Acton's a happy guy. He knows that he was -1 in the first period when Adam Oates scored. Not now. Keith Acton has tied this hockey game at 2 with a nice little jam to the side of the net. A lot of credit goes to Norm Lacombe, too, for the work that he did.
Acton's third goal in 2 games against the Blues this year. It's his 14th of the year. Norm Lacombe gets 1 assist, and Derek Smith gets the other at 6:15. So a backline goal has tied the game at 2. And on with this to lay it into the corner is Ricci. Moving in deep is Murray Barron. Feathered one under Ricci's stick. Pocket through it, but Harold Snep canceled that out and just floated one further. Murphy tries to keep, but it's forced back. And the puck underneath a pair of fallen players. So we'll take leave of you from the Spectrum in Philadelphia, but just for a half minute with our game tied.
So you want a new truck with air, stereo, cassette, all that, but you only want to put down $20. The rest you want to pay later, like, say, 90 days from now. $20, period. What are you, nuts? Well, now these Chevy guys will let you drive home any new truck for just $20. Then you make no payments for 90 days. Can you get this deal on any truck, even a big one? Absolutely. You give them $20, they give you a new Chevy truck. You make no payments. Well, you do, but not for a long time.
13:21 to go in the second. 2-2. Rangers trailing Toronto 1-0 in the first at Maple Leaf Gardens. Quebec a 1-0 lead over Hartford in the second. Montreal 2, Edmonton 0 in the first. And lest we forget the Hershey Bears. They are playing Cape Breton at Hershey Park Arena tonight, trailing 1-0 in the first period there. Back on with this now comes Tocchet. Tocchet's pass just ricocheted over for Darren Kimball. Rugged player acquired from the Quebec Nordiques. And the Blues sent 3 pretty rugged players up to Quebec. Hand pass, stoppage of play. Tocchet having words with Harold Snep. And now Ricci doing the same with one of the Blues, Ron Wilson.
Well, Mike Ricci doesn't pick his spots. That was Darren Kimball that skated by him and gave him a poke. 6'2", 205. Tough guy whose stock skyrocketed when he won it. If not a TKO, then at least a decision over Troy Crowder in New Jersey just before he was traded. Hey, the Blues gave up a tough guy, a couple of tough guys to get him. Herb Ragland, Tony Twist. Twist has been pretty active in the fight department in Quebec. But the Blues need Kimball to play. I mean, the Blues, like all other teams, especially teams that are at the top of the league, cannot afford to have a bad guy sitting on the bench just to send out there to do some damage now and again. And that's why they got Kimball. They need a guy that can play regularly, and they think he can.
Scott Mellanby dumps it behind, hoping Craven is there. Tied up by Dirk, but he got loose. Long one in front that's defended away, but Samuelson just guides it off for Mellanby again. Fires a shot, and that just went by the reach of Jablonski. Fed to the back. Samuelson a shot. Fought off by Jablonski, and then it's poked away to the corner by Paul Cavallini. Craven ties up there with Dirk. Puck fed to Mellanby. Centers one, and Sutter fanned on it. And the Blues bring it back up ice in the person of Brindamore. Watched by Shell Samuelson, who crosses. Ian Brindamore to the corner. Puck cut off by Craven, and Craven, while falling, able to guide it ahead to Ron Sutter. As Mellanby gives across for the carry by Terry Kartner. Moving on with Mellanby, but he's wedged off and up by Dirk. Tried to clear, but Craven kept it. Flung one into Brindamore. Can't get by Samuelson's reach, and Terry Kartner once more will flip it on the backhand in deep. Shift change for the Flyers. The Blues want to get one as well. 11:45 to go in the second period. Game tied at 2 here at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Flyers with 6 shots in this period, and the Blues with only 3. Hextall crunched the boards, but too late to stop that one. Kushner goes back to play it. Rifles it across for Craig Berube, then on now for Keith Acton. So the crash line is out together, even though there were some changes, at least at the start of the game. The Berube, Acton, and Kushner combination working, and Chickering with a shot that sailed wide. Jablonski didn't see that much of it. In deep is Fenves, dropping it off now for Kushner. Kushner taking the boards by Stevens. Tom Tilley over. He and Berube kick at it, and it's lifted high by Oates. He had Courtnall breaking all the way at center ice, but it didn't work out. The pass across to Acton didn't either. Fenves a shot, and that one fought away by Tilley and guided right back onto Jeff Courtnall. Lays a pass ahead, trying to get by Brindamore, and a backhander went right in on goal. Hextall hangs on, and play is stopped with 10:52 to go in the second period of our game. It's the Blues 2 and the Flyers 2.
From the Far East to Europe. Across the Caribbean and throughout North America, only one airline covers so much of the world with so much warmth.
Well, there's the guy backing up Ron Hextall. If you don't recognize him, there's a good reason for it. Every time I look at him, that's Ken Reagan with his haircut and without his mustache. Did it all yesterday. He said if they can't find me and can't identify me, they can't trade me. So I went ahead and shaved my mustache. He looks so different and a lot younger.
Puck fed ahead now for Rick Tocchet. Denied by Harold Snap. And Marois flings it back off the glass, so it is Murray Barron to get it right back across to Murphy. Dumped one ahead for Pelle Eklund. Wiped out Rick Sutter to take it with 10:30 to go in the second period, and our game here at the Spectrum tied at 2. And as the marquee might have shown outside, a defensive skirmish here in which neither team has been able to uncork that many great quality opportunities. Oates and Brindamore on feeds from Hull with goals apiece for St. Louis. Ricci and Acton have scored for the Flyers. Courtnall left a weak one out in front, and that one scooped up by Hextall and held for a stoppage of play. That's not going to start a spread of mustache shaving, is it?
I gotta know. Who are the candidates? I don't think
You?
Ron Hextall. Oh, me?
One, yeah.
I don't know. The first time I hear from enough people that I'm starting to look too old, maybe I'll give it a try.
Well, you didn't have it for the mosquito commercial that I still see every summer, did you?
No, I sure didn't. They grow back. That's Ron Hextall. Boy, the Brett Hall line's back out there again. Imagine Brian Sutter does this regularly. We've only seen the Blues once this season. That was on December 29th, and the Flyers were impressive. They knocked off the Blues in St. Louis. But Adam Oates, who you see here, just got off the ice with Brett Hall, and they're back out there right away.
Adam Oates missed 19 games this season. He's only played in 46 games, 47 counting tonight.
Incredible.
And he's got 91 points. Only Gretzky has a 2-point-per-game average. But Oates is close. Stevens a drive. Score! The Blues have broken the tie. 3-2 they lead now. And it could have been a tip en route. We definitely saw a deflection. Whether it went off a Blue or a Flyer, we'll be able to tell with this replay.
Well, Brett Hall looks like, depending on who it goes off, Brett Hall may have just picked up his third assist in the game. Does it go off a Flyer or does it go off Rod Brindamore? I think that went off Kjell Samuelson's left skate. Take a look at it from here. Cavallini will move it to Stevens, and Stevens just winds up nice and low with the blast. Can't tell from that angle, but it definitely hit either Samuelson or Brindamore. We'll get the official call, but the Blues have broken the tie. It's now 3-2 St. Louis.
Stevens gets the goal. And there's a penalty coming up, and it'll be against the Flyers. We'll get the scoring on the goal for you in a moment, but here's Hall moving in. Brad Hall just holding, and the Flyers finally able to touch. So not only did the Flyers give up one, they give the Blues another chance for the 2-minute power play.
Well, we'll see if we can pick up this penalty. Ron Sutter was in the forecheck. Ooh, yeah, he came down with a stick up high around Paul Cavallini's neck. High sticking to Ron Sutter. For the Blues, who lead at 3-2, now go on the power. We'll get our first look at the Blues power play, and they've got it in the Flyers zone right now.
Hall with a little chip. That went off Samuelson, brushed along by Acton. Hall able to flip it behind, and Hextall out to get it. That one spiked loose by Ronning, but then sent back down by the Flyers, so they'll get that change. They'll bring off Ricci and have Eklund come back on to work with Acton on the penalty-killing unit. In back, it'll be Kartner and Samuelson. And a steal by Eklund, and a shot that went wide. Boy, did Eklund ever dance through. Samuelson lifts one that goes to the seat. And so again, the clock stops, the Flyers having killed off 29 seconds of this power play.
One of the reasons the Flyers have been successful in stretches killing penalties, and I say in stretches because they don't rank that high in the league, they've been aggressive in the offensive zone. There you saw Keith Acton up on the play. Kelly Eklund was even further up on the play. And when Acton broke it up, he dished it right back to Eklund. Eklund looks like he has his dancing shoes on tonight. All he has to do is end up with a puck on his stick.
Stevens from Paul Cavallini and Hall. That's what we're going to say. They announced Marois, but as the replay showed, it was Paul Cavallini who passed it over. And sometimes at an angle, a 44 and a 14 look alike, so that's probably why the mistake was made. It came at 10-12, and for Scott Stevens, that's goal number 5 of the year. The feed for Samuelson, and all of this happening while the Flyers are shorthanded. Samuelson just drops it behind, and Jablonski with a tap over for Oates. A minute 12 to go on the power play. 9 minutes in the second period. 3-2, St. Louis ahead. Ronning fires it in, but it caught a teammate offside, and so we get another halt to play and a neutralized face-off. Notice the net dislodged there. I thought it may have been called back on an offside, but regardless, play is stopped.
Well, Brian Sutter is coaching a team that is made up of a lot of players that came from other teams. Sure, the Blues have grown some of their own, but Brian Sutter's top 7 scorers feature 6 guys who came to St. Louis from other teams. Brett Hall came from Calgary, Adam Oates from Detroit, Courtnall from Washington, Jeff Brown from Quebec. Brindamore is the only draft pick the Blues have that's in their top 7 scoring. Scott Stevenson came from Washington, and Ron Wilson came from the Winnipeg Jets. So Ron Caron has done an outstanding job, and the Blues took so much heat when they signed Scott Stevens, and according to everybody, blew the top off the salaries in the National Hockey League. They got my vote as a team that took a chance and deserve a lot of credit for taking the chance.
Absolutely. One player on the Oakland A's made more than the whole Blues team 12 months ago. Dave Stewart. He made 3.5, and the whole Blues team 3.2, but boy, did that ever change radically. Ron Caron's done a marvelous job in his trades and the building of a franchise, and boy, when all of a sudden the coffers were opened up and the money could be used too, well, that just made him even more effective. All right, the Blues on this power play still have 52 seconds in which to work. They have the lead in the game 3-2 on the Scott Stevens goal that broke the tie. Moving in with this is Adam Oates. He has Hull at the slot, can't get it to him. The Flyers anticipated that move well and actually had 2 in the path of that. Paul Cavallini just tosses right back on for Oates again. Looks for Courtnall, flung it by him. Hull chugging up the wing, but Samuelson there first to drub it back off Stevens and down. To the last half minute we go of this power play. Sutter's high-sticking minor came at 10-12, and that's the one the Flyers are trying to kill off right now. Puck brushed right back for Paul Cavallini. Hands back on for Courtnall. Courtnall trying to get by Murphy. Taken right to the wall. Paul Cavallini leads it ahead. Looks back for Stevens. May want to set up that play again. Hands across now for Oates. Looks toward Hall. Gives across for Paul Cavallini. Shot kicked back out by Hextall. And it's lifted back down the ice by Derek Smith. And with that, Ron Sutter is out of the box. And the teams are back at even strength. On with it is Courtnall, but he lost it to Kjell Samuelson checking. And Samuelson just banks it back down. And this time there'll be an icing that is now being waved off. Marois fires it back around the wall. It comes over for Hall. Nice little leave over for Oates to carry. Oates crisscrosses, but couldn't carry the puck. Instead, Harold Snepps weaves his way ahead. Taps it back to the corner, goes right after it. Murray Barron to get there first. 7 minutes, 20 seconds to go in the second period of our game. 3-2, the St. Louis Blues are ahead. Here is Hall looking for number 70. Just pivots and hangs on. Flips a pass, knocked down by Wilson, and a shot is answered well by Hextall. Wilson goes back once more. Along the boards for Hall. Hall crossing, chopped at by Ricci. Puck fed in, but Murphy up with it. Gives it back across for Murray Barron. But play breaks down again and neutralized as it has so often in this close checking game. Wilson's pass kicked loose by Ricci. Then off target back to Murphy again. Thrown ahead as the Flyers make a complete change. And Marois back to play on defense. 11 shots Flyers, 14 shots for the Blues. Down to the last 6 minutes and 35 seconds of the second period. Hextall out of his goal to get it and leave this one for Dave Penvis. Penvis pass on the money for Jeff Chikrin. First game back in over half a season. Wrapped around now by Keith Atkins, spun loose by Jablonski, right back up the boards. It's scooted by Darren Kimball. Chikrin able to lay this one along. Dumped back across by Kushner. Berube couldn't burrow his way through. Paul Cavallini given a good, hard, high wrap by Keith Atkins. That'll pause. A delayed penalty up against the Flyers as Gino Cavallini moves it ahead. Flips one into the glove of Hextall, and the Blues are going to go on their second successive power play with 6 minutes and a second to go in the second period, and the Blues holding a one-goal lead. Petra!
The V8-powered Mercury Cougar XR7 comes with speed-sensitive steering, anti-lock brakes, and a new high-output V8 that's pure adrenaline, which means the top dog is now a cat. All this in the quality of a Mercury.
Keith Atkins has to sit for 2 minutes because of this elbow. Incoming. Talk about going airborne. Wasn't even an elbow, but it could have been called anything, including a charge. So Keith Atkins sits. The Blues, who ranked 9th overall in the NHL in their power play, which is kind of surprising with the firepower they have, are back out again. The first kill, very successful for the Flyers. That's just a couple of minutes ago.
Ron Sutter wins the faceoff from Brindamore. Samuelson behind, gave it up there, and it went off Ronning. In close quarters, dueling with Hull. Down on the back of the net went the puck, and Kartner able to pin it there, and so another faceoff will result near Hextall.
There's Cliff Ronning. We talked about the small cinnamon that the St. Louis Blues have. Ronning is the smallest at 5'8" and 170 pounds, but you know Ken Hitchcock, after the game in Minnesota, told me that Cliff Ronning is one of the most dominant junior players he had ever seen. One of the three most dominant. One of the other ones was Joe Sakic that is playing in Quebec. But even at his size, Cliff Ronning dominated most of the junior games in which he played.
On this faceoff, Brindamore and Ron Sutter, and Sutter wins again, and this time Samuelson goes the other way with it and gonged the guy in the first row right behind the Flyers bench. He seems to be okay, but another fan perhaps not so lucky, but quick attention being paid to him. As you see, Kjell Samuelson, the big 6'6" defenseman for the Flyers, waiting for the next faceoff that will occur with Brindamore to take it opposite Ron Sutter again. Three to 2, the Blues ahead. 1:44 to go on their power play. Samuelson flipped it back off. It went away from Ronning, but is guided back to Adam Oates. Looks toward Hall, decides to go the other route. The feed is off to Ronning. To the back it comes to Oates. Across to Stevens. Guided to Hall. Feeds one in front, and it was too stiff a pass for Ronning to take. Ronning and Craven duel in the corner. Brindamore comes by as Ronning feeds the point back again to Oates. Oates back over for Ronning again. Hull surrounded, then cross-check from behind by Sutter. Penalty coming up. Oates with a shot knocked down in front. The Flyers touch, and St. Louis will have a 5-on-3. A very clear cross-check from behind by Ron Sutter on Brett Hull. We'll return with the 5-on-3 power play after this.
Frank Bartles and Ed James have just entered the room, where they will make an announcement of great importance.
Hello. What you see here is the world's only light wine cooler. New Bartles and James Light.
How did you make it?
As you can see, Ed has reduced the calories by 1/3, which he believes gives you even more fresh fruit taste.
That's impossible.
That is exactly what they told Tom Edison, and he did just fine with his light, so please try ours, and thank you for your support.
The left side of your screen, you will see part of the hole that the Flyers have dug for themselves, at least the cause of the hole, that cross-check on Brett Hull from Ron Sutter. You couldn't see Sutter, but you sure saw Hull go down. 1 minute and 13 seconds left of the Atkins penalty. That's lots of time for a 5-on-3 for St. Louis.
Flyers not very good at these. They've had 16, and they've given up 7 goals on 5-on-3s. The Blues are 2 for 11 when they've had the two-man advantage. Off the tie-up, Oates Scrums with Ricci. Puck back to Hull. Hull with 69 goals. Plays it over to Ronning. Hull drifts behind. The feed to Courtnall and a shot. Fought off by Hextall. Rebound picked up by Ricci and thrown back down. Still a lot of time on this 5-on-3. 55 seconds for the Blues as Captain Scott Stevens puts it on the stick of Courtnall. Dual go by Samuelson, and Samuelson can clear. Jablonski out to guide it ahead for Oates. Oates moving ahead, has Ronning in his shadow. Puts on the brakes and watches things set up. Adam Oates across now to Stevens. Sets it for Hull, but he couldn't take the pass well. Now recovers to Stevens and back around for Oates, and they work the other side. The man in the middle this time, Courtnall. Stevens across the Hull for Courtnall, and it went off of Eklund. Kept alive, though, by the Blues, and they work it the other way this time. Ronning playing catch with Oates. Then Stevens quickly to Hull. Back to Stevens again. Over it comes to Oates. Then to Stevens. Cracks the shot, and that one tipped loose. It may have been gotten by Ronning, and perhaps Hextall got it too. Now it's dealt in deep for Ronning. Courtnall, the man in the middle of the triangle. Puck tipped aside by Eklund. Stevens to play it. First penalty is up as of now. Puck fed off now for Ronning. Ronning chased off by Kartner. A 5-on-4 power play for the Blues. Has 40 seconds in which to go. Back it comes for Hull. Samuelson swatted it from him. Cutting over to it is Axon. Couldn't punch it by Stevens. Hull trying to get to the front. Rushed it across the goal mouth one-handedly and wide. And it's thrown back out by Eklund. Stevens fouled Hole with a good recovery that time. Puck fed ahead across two lines for Brindamore, and that'll bring the face-off where the Flyers sure would want to have it. Back in the Blues end with 19 seconds still for them to kill.
Boy, what a funny sequence. When Jeff Courtnall just sent the puck up ice, Rod Brindamore touched it, but he was 1,000 miles away from Courtnall. Obviously, two lines away. Brett Hall started yelling at Courtnall, openly upset that Courtnall would try that long two-line pass. Well, it's almost time for us to get our ballots for the Adams Trophy ready, Mike. The award that goes to the top coach in the National Hockey League. All of the members of the Broadcasters Association get to vote on it. I know that Paul Holmgren will get some votes. You've got to know Brian Sutter will get a lot of votes. He has to be one of the two leading candidates in my mind right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Puck flipped in front. Craven a shot! And that one blocked by Jablonski. A short-handed attempt by Murray Craven. 3:20 to go, second period. 3-2 the Blues ahead, down to the last 3 seconds of the power play to St. Louis. And as it's played by Marois, out of the box is Ron Sutter, and the Flyers kill off a 5-on-3.
You know, they made it look easy, too, Mike. They were surprisingly aggressive. But to me, they chased and they pushed in the offensive zone, and St. Louis was never able to take advantage of it with quick puck movement.
Oh, Barron with a good shot, and Jablonski answers that one, and then the rebound trap. Boy, Murray Barron, who set up a goal earlier in the game with a pass right from that very spot, nearly chipped one home that time.
That Murray Barron's starting to like this, isn't he? He must be a frustrated left winger. He's been up on the play all night, but the key is he's out there with guys that know how to cover for him. I mean, Pelly Eklund has covered for him 3 or 4 times tonight, and he's fine in there on the rush. He has all the right in the world to get in there, as long as you've got people smart enough to back you up, and the Flyers definitely do.
Boy, the Blues picked up some more depth in goal. Tom Draper is the backup to Jablonski tonight, and he was acquired just a couple of days ago from the Winnipeg Jets. Last year, St. Louis strengthened itself down the stretch by getting Ron Wilson from Winnipeg right before the trade deadline. That deadline will be on Tuesday of this next week. Then the Roughters are in cement for the rest of the year in the playoffs. Off the face-off, puck taken by Tocchet, trying to get away from Paul Cavallini. But it is Eklund instead. Steals it back off for Craven. Craven to the point. Chychrun a one-timer, and that one went wide. 6 stayed in one piece anyway. Tocchet to the boards, then to the back. It comes for Fenves, and his shot right in on the pad of Jablonski, and scooped up by Paul Cavallini and flipped back out. Chychrun dumped it back off. Tocchet had trouble playing. Wilson didn't, though. Tried to work one ahead for Gino Cavallini, defended by Chychrun. Along the boards, Wilson. In deep, the pass to Momesso. Back for Wilson, who spiked it down. Tried to get a shot away, but a penalty coming up against the Flyers as Ron Wilson headed to the net. Drew a penalty against the Flyers. 2:17 to go here in the second, and the Blues to go on their 4th consecutive power play. They lead in the game 3-2.
Well, in spite of the big size disadvantage that the Blues have, you can see that a guy like Ron Wilson will continue to put his head down and drive for the net. He happened to get in behind Jeff Chychrun. Big check with his first appearance since November is off for cross-check. He might have had a glimpse of that cast that he is wearing on his left hand. You can't see it now. It's down behind his glove. There's a little look at it. It's a removable cast made of a material called orthoplast that actually molds to the shape of the wrist or whatever part of the body it's protecting. And it's removable. He just wears it during practice and during the game. Still has a screw in his wrist. That will be there for life. It is not a removable screw. It's holding the little bone, the little navicular bone, in place and will continue to do so forever.
Off this tie-up, puck picked up by Shel Samuelson, and Samuelson drives one off the glass that heads right back down to where Stevens must play in the last 2 minutes and 5 seconds of the second period. Stevens hit high and hard by Ricci that time. Oates able to scoop it back to him as the Blues now start to get something going on the power play, at least with movement. Ronning able to walk it in. Watched by Ron Sutter and spun around. Ronning with good control, though. Tried to get it to Stevens, but the Flyers intercede, and it's cleared down by Samuelson. Flyers change now, bringing out Acton and Eklund to work up front. It'll be Terry Kartner and Shel Samuelson in back. Blues move it ahead. This is Ronning. Had it brushed away by Eklund. Picked up by Samuelson. Samuelson tried to flip it back down, but it's deflected and handled by Stevens. Then on to the turning of Cliff Ronning. Hands it back across for Adam Oates again. Blues able to move it in, and a puck to Ronning for a shot that went to the glass. A deep slot drive that caught the glass, and the Blues keep it alive now with Stevens playing over for Brett Hull. Hull tried to chip one for Ronning, but that one scooted through an Oates pass. Came back over for Ronning off a Flyer 6. Stevens to Hull, and he hit the post. It would have been number 70, and did he ever crank that? But it caught the far post. Now Adam Oates able to step away again in the final 40 seconds of the power play. 56 seconds to go in the second period as the clock stops on an offside.
Well, the Flyers have done a good job of taking away the seam pass, even taking away the outside pass. You can see that as the puck is going over to Brett Hull, Shel Samuelson is trying to move out to him. He can't get there quickly enough. Hull one time there right off the far post. Hit the outside of the post. Nobody releases the puck quicker than Brett Hull. Of course, that was a one-timer. Everybody releases those at about the same speed. You come to it, you whack it as it arrives. But to take a puck from any position in escape on the backhand or the forehand with somebody hanging all over him, nobody transitions to the shooting position better than Hull, and nobody releases quicker than Hull in the game today. Maybe the best all time.
There's just a bit of unusual bit of his past history. Very few guys in the NHL play their first game in the Stanley Cup Finals, but Brett Hull did. You may remember it, Bill, working the finals of 1986, Calgary and Montreal, and he got his inaugural game in the NHL in the finals. He did not score in that one. The goals were to come down the road. Two Blues collide. Moving back ahead with this is Adam Oates now. Watched by Shel Samuelson in the last 20 seconds of the period. Penalty time up in 3 seconds as Stevens feeds across to Hull. Hull works the outside over to Paul Cavallini. Penalty time up. Stevens over to Hull. Quick shot went wide. Rebound hacked at by Hextall and picked up by Samuelson. Thrown off, but Stevens with a good keep. Right back along for Courtnall. Feathers the Hull. Tries to get loose. Slithers it in front. And it's poked aside by Hextall. And the horn will sound to end the second period of play. Both teams scored twice in that period. The Blues had an advantage 1-0 after 1. Ricci from Barron and Tocchet at 33. Brindamore from Hull at 49 seconds. Acton from Lacombe and Smith at 6:15. And Stevens from Paul Cavallini, it will be changed to, and Hull at 10:12. 13 shots, Flyers, 8 in that period. The Blues had 10 for 17.
Tonight's game is brought to you in part by Alka-Seltzer Plus Cold Medicine, sponsors of the NHL's Plus Minus Award. Here's a look at the league's current leaders. When you got a cold and you gotta get relief, you gotta get Alka-Seltzer Plus Cold Medicine.
Got a painful cold? Gotta get relief? Get Alka-Seltzer Plus Cold Medicine. It relieves painful cold symptoms some others miss with a decongestant, antihistamine, and a pain reliever you can't find in any other leading cold medicine.
The pain's gone.
I can breathe.
Everything feels better.
Alka-Seltzer Plus Cold Medicine. Relief for your painful cold. And now, for sinus and allergy relief, try new Alka-Seltzer Plus Sinus Allergy Medicine.
every minute. But in Alabama, you'll find one surprise after another. Enough surprises to fill a vacation. Enough memories to last a lifetime. For your free book of surprises, call us toll-free right now. Alabama. Special moments you want to keep forever.
Well, the goal scorers went to work in the second period. 4 scored in all. The first one was Mike Ricci's 20th, but Murray Barron did a lot of work on it. We're going to show you what the Big Bear did to make it so good. Started right here with Barron having the puck, moves it to Gord Murphy, and then first thing Barron does is read the play. Murphy, long cross-ice pass, and we'll stop right here and show you that Pelly Eklund has his guy blocked out of the play, so Rick Tocchet moves over to help him. Barron is already digging in because he has read that Eklund right here can back him up. He wants to get up on the play offensively. So we'll let it roll, and I'll show you what happened to the Blues. We'll stop right here and show you that Dave Lowry, number 10 of the Blues, who's usually an outstanding defensive player, lets Mike Ricci get inside of him. I think he's mesmerized. Looks like he's looking over here because he thinks that Tocchet is going to get squeezed off. It doesn't happen. Meanwhile, Barron is going to move up on the play and make the whole thing work. We'll stop it again and show you that now that Lowry has lost his man, it is a simple 2. That's Ricci and Barron. On 1, that is Stevens. It's a simple 2-on-1. If Tocchet can get it into Barron, that's what he does. Barron will take a perfect pass, move it in here, simply lay it out for Mike Ricci. And the Flyers made it look easy, but the Blues helped with some defensive breakdowns. Okay, the Blues are going to score on this play. Chris Jensen tries a backhand pass to Dale Kushner. Hard to make that pass when your back is to the offensive zone because you don't know what's coming. And I'll tell you what's coming. Brett Hull is coming from there. Here he comes. He picks it up. We'll stop here again and show you that Dale Kushner just a little button hook, but he can't get Brett Hull. Away he comes. And the Blues put pressure on the Flyers, and I'll stop right here and show you how. Adam Oates is going to cut in. Samuelson is going to follow him. Meanwhile, Brind'Amour is going to go wide. And watch what happens when this sequence occurs. Stop again and show you that now Oates is with Acton. Meanwhile, Hull is blowing by Terry Carter. And when Samuelson sees that, he goes back here to try and cut off Brett Hull. That leaves the goal scorer wide open. Brind'Amour is going to cut in here and take a Brett Hull rebound and score one for himself. Nice play by Brett Hull and a nice rebound by Brind'Amour. Okay, hard-working goal by the Flyers. Derek Smith is over here. He's got 2 Blues on him. What does he need? He needs help. Norm Lacombe to the rescue, picks it up. Keith Acton is out here. But when Lacombe takes it, moves behind the net, the Blues are in good shape. We'll stop right here and show you that as Lacombe comes around the net, he's going to backhand it on Jablonski. The breakdown that I can't believe happened is right here. Scott Stevens is for the Blues. 6'2", 215. That's Keith Acton for the Flyers. Watch what happens. Acton gets inside of Scott Stevens. Believe it or not, he gives away so much height, so much weight. Hard work, determination can conquer all. Blues are conquering right now. 3-2, they lead at the end of the second. Third period coming up.
Do you need a car? Listen, each year government agencies auction, sell, and liquidate thousands of cars and trucks, and the bidding starts as low as $30. Government vehicles, luxury cars taken from drug dealers, criminals, and thousands more seized, repossessed, sold through bankruptcy proceedings. Now find out how you can grab the car you want at government liquidation and bankruptcy prices. Bid as low as $30 for Porsches, Mercedes, Ferraris, Corvettes, family cars, and trucks. Find out how to get the car you want now. Call 1-900-HOT-AUTO. That's 1-900-468-2886. Just $2 a minute.
You want a new car, but you don't want to do this. Well, now all you need is $20, and you can drive home any new Chevrolet or Geo. $20 will deliver the car, just like that. You give them $20, they give you any new Chevrolet or Geo, and your first payment isn't due for 90 days. For example, with this Lumina, you'll save way more than $1,000 over the Ford Taurus, and $20 delivers. So get a new Chevy, $20, and pay nothing for 90 days. Nothing, no check writing, none.
We're going to go ahead and cross this out on our score sheet. Paul Cavallini definitely passed the puck to Scott Stevens, who scored, but it still is in his Marois right now, and Paul may not argue about it, so he may not get the point.
Where's the second period summary sheet? Marois wasn't even on the ice, was he?
No, I don't believe so. No, he's not even on the ice at the time it was scored.
No, there you go. They've given an assist to a guy that's not on the ice.
Sometimes that'll happen on weird changes, but not in that case. But Paul Cavallini probably is not arguing the point. And for that reason, the point will go in as Marois. So we just ask you to make that change, even though it ain't the truth.
Or help us. If you're listening, please call. We've fallen and can't get up. We need help with the Marois-Cavallini situation.
Puck worked along by Tilley. Rich Sutter to guide it behind. It went through Stevens along for Lowry. And Lowry flips back out and in stride. It is Ron Wilson moving up the ice. Slams on the break. Feeds across. Tilley in with a drive. And a pad stop made by Hextall. And he'll hang on.
Well, neither goaltender has been very busy in this one so far. The Flyers have only managed 13 shots on Jablonski. This is shot number 19 for the Blues. Tilley moved up in the play. He's a defenseman trying to generate some offense. See Rich Sutter, number 23 in front, screening. Ron Hextall still trying to push that record up to 500. He had it up twice last month. Both times the Hartford Whalers knocked him back down to below 500. His average right now is 2.93. He has never finished a season in junior or in pro with an average under 3.
Like Calgary, a 4-1 lead over Minnesota. The Flames have not lost at home since before Christmas. And they've won 4 straight. But Minnesota is unbeaten in 6 games. And so the North Stars are getting hot at just the right time. Here's Hull flipping one, and that'll probably be the easiest stop someone will make on Hull this year that Hextall just grabbed off. Tilley then lost to Ron Sutter, flings it in on goal, and Jablonski just snaps that one up and guides it around. Waiting for it to turn it back out. That time was Brindamore, but it is kept by Gord Murphy. Then back across for Mellenby. Mellenby's pass for Craven. Wedged off by Tilley, so Stevens goes back to play. Hurries one that Ron Sutter knocked loose, then had it stripped away. Brindamore headmans it up to Oates. Has Hull cruising and gets to him. Then Brindamore on the wing. Cranks the shot. And a stick save made by Hextall. He covers quickly and gets to Halt to play.
Boy, what a great sequence of passes to show you just how gifted these guys are. I mean, Adam Oates not only can pass the puck, but watch him receive this pass. He took it between his skates backwards because Brindamore he underthrew him. And finally it went to Hull back to Brindamore. Usually the first good pass on a rush squashes the rush. It's hard to recover from it. That tells you how brilliant Adam Oates is with his hands. He received that pass that was absolutely in his skates.
Ron Hextall, 16 for 19 on shots tonight. Pat Jablonski at the other end has stopped a dozen out of 14. Jeff Chychrun having a word with Flyers captain Ron Sutter, who will move in on this faceoff to take it with Ron Wilson. Wilson has Courtnall nearby. Brett Hull has stayed out on this unit now. And Harold Snepps. And Hull picks it off. Flips one that is knocked down in front by Fenves and handed back over for Chychrun. Then across for Keith Acton.
Boy, what an interesting line change. Brian Sutter kept Brett Hull on the ice just for that faceoff to see if Ron Wilson could draw it back to him for the big blast on goal. When Hull finally did get it, he just ripped it at the net, went right for a change. So it was just a one-time thing they were trying. But you don't score 69 goals playing every third or fourth shift, do you?
No. Here's Darren Kimball, tied up by Lacombe. Right back across for Smith. Smith tries to rush around. Harold Snepps is there. Sometimes you're out there only interrupted by the time it takes for a penalty to be called against the opposition, because you finish one shift and go right back on the power play, especially if your team's got to have a goal in the third. And Hull is the magic man. Nobody in the league has more power play goals than he does, 25. Keith Acton ahead. Scott Stevens watching him. Acton flips one in front. Just gets to the corner for Tocchet to take. Works toward the back for Barron, but it's cut off by Basson. Followed up by Wilson and just slugged all the way back down. There'll be an icing call here as the Flyers touch up. So it's 17:35 to go in the third. And the sing-song chant beginning here at the Spectrum. The home team is still down by 1.
Extra strength Rolaids antacid. Stronger because it has more calcium carbonate, more than any Tums tablet, and salt-free. More calcium carbonate and salt-free. This settles it once and for all.
When sports cream, when arms are sore, when legs ache, when muscles hurt, why Sports Cream? Massaging Sports Cream In brings fast pain relief. No medicine-y smell, no odor. Why Sports Cream? Because it works.
Big game in the Patriot Division tonight for the Washington Caps. They are tied in the third 2-2 with the New York Islanders. This is the Caps game in hand on the New Jersey Devils, who lead them by 6 points. But the Islanders are giving them all they can handle at the Cap Center tonight. 2-2 in the third.
Rangers ahead of the Maple Leafs 2-1 in the second. In the other game of importance to the Patrick Division team, all the way down this comes Ron Hextall out, the Spirited high off the glass, and it sailed into the seats. because it went off the glass. No penalty coming. 17:23 to go in the third. 3-2 Blues with less than a month to go before the end of the regular season. Time to start thinking playoffs. If you haven't reserved your seat for postseason play, now's the time to do so. Just call the Flyers at 215-465-4500 during normal business hours to order a strip or two of playoff tickets. That number again, 215-465-4500. All major credit cards are accepted.
You don't mention New Jersey just ahead of Washington, hanging on to that last playoff spot. What's interesting about the Devils, since the 28th and 30th of January, when they won back-to-back games, they have not won or lost 2 consecutive games.
Guys, Chicago is starting to be on the bubble for maybe going 3 games without a win, aren't they?
Yeah, they are too. They're slipping in the stretch. St. Louis loves it.
They're the only team that has not gone 3 without at least a win, but they've gone the last 2 now. Puck frozen for a face-off that will occur near Ron Hextall. Flyers really hit the iron schedule. St. Louis, the Rangers, Washington, and Pittsburgh twice the rest of the way. Calgary, Edmonton, Los Angeles, Vancouver, and Buffalo. And those are all road games once, and Boston here once.
The positive from a Flyers standpoint is that they are getting healthier. Jeff Chychrun back in the lineup tonight. Tim Kerr is going to make the long road trip and may make it into the lineup. Hard to say right now, but he's getting closer. Mark Howe, unfortunately, now is a long shot. Came back and skated last week and did a little too much work and is experiencing pain in his back. So Mark Howe is, I guess, classified as day-to-day and indefinite all at the same time. There's no telling if or when he'll be back.
Well, you look at the ifs of the season, and the Flyers aren't allowing themselves that luxury. That's a big one. Here's a 2-on-1 break. Moving in is Basson. Backhander save made by Hextall. Rebound. They step for it in the crease. And where is it? Terry Frazier's looking too. Is it under a Flyer defenseman, or is it under Hextall? And apparently it's under Hextall, because had the Flyers frozen it in the trees, it would have been a penalty shot. Save for their goalkeeper.
Well, you know, Bob Basson was looking for the pass. Watch him start looking back for the pass. Look. He's not in any position to shoot. Finally, when the pass disappears, he has to try a shot, and he doesn't have any angle. Rich Sutter was diving in there. So was Rod Brindamore for the rebound, but Ron Hextall had it squeezed off. Look at Ronnie cross-checking his twin brother to the ice. See Basson looking back. That's why I always advocate think shot first. If Basson had his head up and was looking at Ron Hextall, there's always at least a small opening.
Boy, Brindamore actually got that up off the ice, didn't he?
Yeah, he got a rebound. Ron Hextall had to be sharp, even lying flat on his back.
I thought initially it had just been turned into his legs, but he actually was trying to lift that and get something over Hextall to give the Blues a 2-goal lead. If you're just joining us, whenever you're punching around, it's always annoying if you don't know the score. Well, it is 3-2 St. Louis here with 16:47 to go in the third period. If we get time, we'll give you the rest of them, too. Hull with a shot off the outside of the goal, and it's Brindamore chased off by Terry Kartner. Now Samuelson with it. Right back on for Kartner again. Lays it over for Ricci. Hands the Tocchet back for Ricci. Kicked it ahead for Pelle Eklund. Eklund in deep. Tried to center but couldn't. Paul Cavallini forced it off. Samuelson takes. One-time shot. Bounced loose, and Eklund will be the first one to get to it. Hacks one in front that hits right in on Jablonski by Ricci. And a stoppage of play as Jablonski holds on and a crowd gathers.
Boy, Mike Ricci has been a hungry athlete tonight. He scored his 20th in the second period, but he has hit everything that has moved. And Pelle Eklund's quick turnaround. See Ricci there screening. Scott Stevens is there as well. Quite frankly, the Flyers have had a lot of luck with Scott Stevens tonight, challenging him in man-to-man situations, including that play that I illustrated during the second intermission where Keith Acton just got right around Scott Stevens in front in a man-to-man muscle situation. Stevens has not been a physical force here, which he sure was regularly in the past when he came here playing for the Washington Caps.
Oh, absolutely. One of the few guys that ever wound up using being the leading scorer on a team from the defense position. Here's Hull moving right in. He scores! Brett Hull has made it number 70 on what looked like initially was a play that might not work for him. But goal number 70 for Hull makes this a 4-2 game with the Blues ahead.
Don't look so happy, Brett. It's only number 70. Well, the Blues got a lucky bounce on this one. Harold Snep's long cross-ice pass, Terry Kartner tried to stand up on. Got by him, got to the boards. Well, as soon as Ron Hextall made a move, Hull drilled it between his legs. Watch it from this angle. The puck was rolling. Oh, boy, oh, boy. He needs no time. He needs no room. Goal number 70. Harold Smith will get 1 assist. Brett Hall now becomes only the 3rd player in the history of the National Hockey League to score 70 goals in back-to-back seasons. Wayne Gretzky has done it, Mario Lemieux has done it, and now Brett Hall has done it.
Berube rifled that one along. Tries to play it in deeper. Denied there for a moment by Kimball. Off of Acton it came, and the Flyers find themselves in a 2-goal hole now. Or is that hole? Well, Brett Hall has done it to him, hasn't he? A goal and 3 assists. He's figured on every Blues goal tonight, and they're in control.
Planning. Where'd I get the capital to start this business with my daughter? By investing for the long haul. And forget full commission brokers. I called Charles Schwab. Munis, mutual funds, blue chips, and I saved plenty with Schwab's low commission. Every day I tell my daughter, think long term. Make your own decisions. Be your own man.
For a free Schwab fact kit, call toll-free 800-841-0300.
Boy, you talk about the acclaim that came from Bobby Hull's 50th goal when he finally got that. That was just an earth-shaking goal number to accomplish in the course of a season. And Brett, so casual in this day and age where more goals are scored by certain individuals at getting 70. Ahead with this now is Basson. Just lifts one in that is scooped up by Hextall. Hextall taps along for Berube, but it came right back over for Rich Sutter. I guess when you've done it once already, that approaching what you've done before isn't as big a thing as eventually surpassing it, which Hall would do if he can get 3 more.
Well, I think the biggest influence on Brett Hall has been Brian Sutter, and Brian Sutter has taught Brett Hall not to settle for anything less than absolutely reaching his potential, and I think Brett Hall wants to get 80, 85, who knows, 90 this season. He's not willing to settle for 50, 60, or 70.
NHL record is 92. Wayne Gretzky had that. Gretzky, of course, has been over the 70 plateau before, not just the one time. Puck rolled along now for the carry to be made by Ronning. Lays it back out for Cavallini. Dino Cavallini moving in, tried to breeze by, and it came right in on Hextall. So he'll hang on and get a halt to play. Oh, we have Murphy pawing here. Dino's been in on a few of those this year, but there won't be one here.
Well, the 70-goal club is rather exclusive. It is a very short list when you think of all the years the National Hockey League has been in business. Gretzky's done it a number of times. His top year was 92. Lemieux's done it more than once. His top year, 85. Bill Esposito had 76. Hall had 72 last year. He has 70 so far this year. Yari Curry had 71. Bernie Nichols has done it once with 70, and that's all. Brett Hall, with his 72 last year, became the all-time highest single-season right-wing scorer in the National Hockey League. Curry, the Edmonton Oilers, held the previous record at 71. But Brett's going to whiz by that number this season. He's already got 70. What do they got after tonight? 13 or 14 to go?
Yeah, they have 14 left. And it doesn't make any difference whether it's home and road. Most times you start to think of whether you're going to get the last line change or not, but Brian Sutter's been able to get Hall out there against whomever, and it doesn't seem to make that much difference, whether at home or away. Ricci feeds one ahead. Tilly after it. Top loose by Pelle Eklund, followed up by Barron, but Tilly got it loose. Took it over for the tip right back out again by Sergio Momesso. Murphy's pass blocked away by Wilson, and so deeper the Blues go. Wilson centered one. It went off the outside of the net. He had Momesso gliding by, and Hextall decides to just hang on here and get a halt to play. 13:51 to go in the third. Blues have the lead over the Flyers 4-2.
You want a new car, but you don't want to do this. Well, now all you need is $20, and you can drive home any new Chevrolet or Geo. $20 will deliver the car just like that. You give them $20, they give you any new Chevrolet or Geo, and your first payment isn't due for 90 days. For example, with this Lumina, you'll save way more than $1,000 over the Ford Taurus, and $20 delivers. So get a new Chevy, $20, and pay nothing for 90 days. Nothing, no check writing, none.
Here's what's coming up tomorrow on Sports Channel.
payments. Well, you do, but not for a long time.
Jablonski is being tested now. Scott Mellamy in front to Murray Craven with a good deflection, but you could see Jablonski was ready. Not bad for a kid that's only playing in his 7th NHL game. Last year he played in 4, had an 0-3 record and a 4.90 goals against average. Coming into tonight's game, a win, no losses and a tie, and a 2.44 goals against average. He's been sharp when he's had to here tonight.
To his side, emerging from it, Derek Smith. To the back now, Samuelson. Lifts one that just went over the shoulder of Jablonski. Along the boards, Lacombe checked off, trying to jam it loose is Paul Cavallini for Hull, but it came for Ron Sutter instead. Sutter to the back, Samuelson cranks a shot, and that one blocked off of the defense of Stevens and flipped off the glass, but Samuelson kept it again. Second effort and a third, and finally a ricochet off of blue and came back. Boy, Samuelson was just feverish in trying to hang on to that one to keep pressure on, but it didn't work that time. Mellenby across Forshell, Samuelson again. Controls on the backhand and drops it in. Shift change on. Fentis and Chikrin come out to play defense for the Flyers. Jablonski gave it to Cavallini. And then in close quarters to Stevens, who wraps it around. Brindamore couldn't get out with it. Instead, right back toward Mellenby. Stepped in too soundly by Scott Stevens. And dumped along the boards, but Fentis there to keep. Rolls it around behind to Murray Craven. It comes. Craven out in front for Mellenby. Couldn't pull the trigger. And the puck just away from Ricci as it skidded across. Here comes Hull, roaring back out and just dropping one in deep. Shift change, and the Blues bring out Darren Kimball, and Hull sits down. Back on now is Chikrin. Turns it back for Fentis. Denied on the play by Courtnall. But it's taken by Fentis, and turned on the backhand back in for Mario Marois. Tipped back out by Tilley away from Tocchet. 9:20 to go here in the third. Darren Kimball got in the way of that Fentis toss, and now it's Chikrin just laying it back in. Flyers continue to dump and try to get something going. But the Blues have scored here in the third and also midway in the second to break it 2-all tie. Stevens in the second. Brett Hull with his 70s in the third, and it's a 4-2 game. Gord Murphy up with it, plays it right back ahead for Ricci, guides on for Tocchet. Back for Ricci, then Tocchet again. Feeds over for Pelle Eklund. Eklund controls, but the Blues are all over him. Feeds one in front, and Jablonski just snaps it out of the air and hangs on. Clock stop again, midway in the third, and that man's team has got the lead by 2.
Now over here, we're going to put that computer. You don't want it over there?
I don't know.
When the moment comes to build your dreams, no card's better than Gold MasterCard.
This corner's for your weight machine.
With more buying power, at nearly 3 times more places than American Express.
It's Wall Street trophy.
No pressure, though.
Yeah.
Gold MasterCard, piece by piece, the best gold card to master the moment.
Now this is a big call.
St. Louis going for victory number 40 of the year and points 87 and 88. And decisive improvement over last year. Everyone said, gee, the Blues are going to be playing under a tremendous amount of pressure. The guys with the big money are going to have to prove that they're worth it. The whole team will be watched much more closely.
Right.
Guys, if there's pressure, they don't show it.
Right now, they're projecting to 106 points on the season. Their franchise has only ever surpassed the 100-point mark once, and that was 1980-81 when they won their division with 107 points. So they're going to come very close at this pace to equaling the all-time record for their franchise for total points in the season. That's how much pressure they're feeling.
Tocchet swung that one by Acton, played it on the bounce, but then was rocked to the boards on a check by Bassett. Barron hit on the play by Rich Sutter, and it's laid back down. Murphy will have to go back to get it again with 8:20 to go in the third period. Pass went off Barron's stick, but is played by Eklund right across for Keith Acton again. Acton playing in game number 800 tonight. Rolled that one toward the corner, flipped right back off by Paul Cavallini. Started back up by Lowry. Lowry wedged off by Pelle Eklund. Paul Cavallini carries it ahead and just guides it back in. Boy, that's a lot of badgering for a young guy, isn't it? 800 games of sniping at opponents verbally and trying to make their lives miserable. 7:53 left in the third, and the St. Louis Blues have the lead in the game 4-2.
Well, we talked about the Adams Trophy a little earlier. Brian Sutter, to me, is the leading candidate right now, along with Tom Webster of the Los Angeles Kings. You know the thing I look for, Mike? I mean, you vote and I vote, but I look, first of all, for team improvement over the season before, and that's why Sutter and Webster have to get a lot of votes.
Paul Holmgren, as you mentioned earlier, should come in for some. if the Penguins finish second, or if they're able to catch the Rangers in particular, Bob Johnson could get some votes too, because he's really done some wondrous things there without the star player on the team to work with this year.
I think Mike Keenan will get some, but
yeah,
you know, politics and your relationship with all kinds of people, the voters enter into it, and your attitude, and I don't know. I think it might be prejudicial, but I don't think Mike Keenan's going to get a lot of friendly votes.
Lacombe with a shot, and Jablonski knocked that one down. This one floated ahead for Hall. Samuelson tipped it further, and it's followed up by Brindamore. Shoveled along for Hall. Hall moving right to the slot, checked off from behind by Ron Sutter, and Marois has to play in neutral ice. Played right back for Hall. That one tipped loose by Samuelson, gathered in by Adam Oates with just over 7 minutes to play in the third period. Up the wing, Hall remarkably able to get a piece of that one, just lays it in and then took the hit from Kartner. Hextall turns it along for the carry by Murray Craven. Pressure starting to get on the Flyers here. As the clock their enemy, 6:50 to go. They've got to get two. Mellanby a shot saved by Jablonski, cleared right away by Merrill.
By Craig Berube. Two guys went right to stop Mellanby. That left Berube open. He had to transition it from the back end of the forehand, and as soon as he did, bingo, man, did he let this go. Watch him right here. A little tap to the forehand, then he snapped it up high, hit the post, possibly even the crossbar. But the Flyers have drawn to within one. The Blues were in complete control up until this play. Both Adam Oates and Harry Smith, they committed on Scott Mellanby, and that left a hole for Craig Berube to move into. His fifth goal of the season has made it a 4-3 tilt. Flyers are alive.
Murray Craven gets one assist, and Scott Mellanby the other on Berube's fifth at 13:24. So the difference now is just one. Hextall with a pass off the glass that goes down the ice, and Tocchet gets there first, no icing. Tocchet and Dirk go waltzing, and so Jablonski has to make the play. Pass Ricci, and it's wedged right back out again by Momesso. Hextall coming out of his goal, slugs it away from Tino Cavallini, and back into the Blues end deep. Paul Cavallini back for this one. They wave icing off, and the puck lifted into the seat. Tempo picking up. Fans getting noisier. 6:08 to go in the third. 4-3 St. Louis.
Each year, the experts at Car and Driver look at over 100 cars, so you don't have to. From the current new cars, they just picked their 10 best. At the most, you'll probably only buy one of them. That's too bad, because 2 of the 10 best are Mercury's. Mercury Sable and Mercury Tracer LTS. All this in the quality of a Mercury.
You know, you would think that the St. Louis Blues, being the top team in the National Hockey League right now, would really be a picture of poise and control. But in the last 3 Flyers rushes, when the Blues have tried to get it out of trouble, they just dumped it into the stands.
Samuelson, a shot that was tipped to the glass. Blues up with it, trying to move it back out. Rich Sutter taken out of the play by Mellanby. Terry Kartner with a pass that came to Berube, and Berube cuts back ahead with it. Hit by Rich Sutter, got it on to Craven. Takes a shot! And that one off the mark by a foot or more. Terry Kartner pivots with that one, lays it back over for Samuelson as the clock ticks to 5 minutes and 40 seconds to go here in the third. Berube bunts it in, goes right to get it, but Stevens chips it off the glass. Samuelson read it there, fires it right back around again, and Jablonski plugged right into the boards to stop it for Scott Stevens, who spins it ahead. Moving up ice with it, shuttling into the corner was Dave Lowry. Back to get it is Murphy. Hands it quickly across for Terry Kartner again. Ahead, a blind pass for Ron Sutter. Quickly worked back ahead, though, for Derek Smith, and the bouncing puck covered by Smith, but spun into Ron Wilson. Flyers fans chanting here. 5:10 to go in the third. Blues have the lead in the game by 1. It is Murray Barron controlling. Flyers, if they could win, would move to within 4 of the New York Rangers. Pending the outcome of their game with Toronto, the Rangers are ahead 2-1 in the third. But more importantly, the Flyers could pull 2 points further ahead of the idle New Jersey Devils and Pittsburgh Penguins. But that's an if. Right now, they're down in the hole by 1. Blues move back ahead. Clock continues to move. 4 minutes and 40 seconds to go. Wilson dumping it off the boards, and a delayed offside is whistled down.
Well, the St. Louis Blues have one statistic in their favor tonight. Brett Hull has scored a goal. You can see the numbers. When Brett Hull scores, the Blues are 30 wins, 9 losses, and 4 ties. When he doesn't score, 9, 9, and 4.
got a lot of control, doesn't he? A guy that was a very fiery player and is a fiery coach, too. Boy, you talk about bloodied but unbowed.
Hey.
Don't talk to me about how I hurt. What are we going to do on this next one?
Looks like you got a little too close to the margaritas in the blender. Man, oh man, he's chewed up.
There are rivets in those boards, and I'm just wondering if maybe he might have caught one of those. There's a Shell Samuelson check that saw him flying into the boards, and we're not really certain in the first period and couldn't really tell where other than his face going into the boards first, where there might have been the possibility of a cut, but boy, did he ever get nicked a few times.
You know, he picked up the lip wound since then.
Here's Barron with a pass that's deflected wide. Barron again at the corner working for it, pestered by Rich Sutter and then by Bassett. Coming by is Ricci, able to knock it free. Tockett couldn't get there, though, as Paul Cavallini got body position on him. Hands to Stevens, then right back up to Lowry again. Lowry fires this one back in. The clock ticks down now to an even 4 minutes to play in the third. Puck kept alive by Adam Oates. He was jostled from behind by Ricci. Hextall sets it for Murphy, and Gord Murphy can move it ahead. On to Eklund's stick. Pivoting along with Ricci. Eklund carrying it along, then dumping it in deep. Paul Cavallini, the first one back. Cavallini just dumps it back out. Flyers have completed a change now. They have Berube as well as Tockett and Murray Craven out, and they pour into the Blues zone deep to get this one, but the Blues are able to break it with Stevens as a pass. Ahead there, came back over for Craven. Craven shoveled one that went wide. Berube went down. Jablonski jabbed it high to the glass. Picked up by Craven again. He's got Kartner at a point. Gets the other side. Samuelson. Big drive. Walked down and sent down the ice by Brindamore. Stoppage of play and a cross-checking penalty is signaled by the referee, Terry Fraser. Meanwhile, Stevens and Berube squared off. It'll be a penalty against St. Louis. The Flyers will get a power play when we come back.
Pain from just one sensitive tooth can start the domino effect, a chain reaction that can end in tooth loss. The pain can make you stop brushing, lead to plaque buildup, gingivitis, periodontal disease, even tooth loss. Sensodyne toothpaste helps stop the pain and the domino effect. Dentists recommend Sensodyne most for sensitive teeth, and Sensodyne is now available in a pump. Help stop the pain and the domino effect with Sensodyne.
The Cavallini brothers, the flying Cavallini brothers, have been grounded at least half the act. That's Paul. He's sitting in the penalty box for cross-checking here. 3:13 to go, and this is what happened in front of Pat Jablonski. The big cross-check on Scott Mellanby's back. Went head first down into the ice. Terry Fraser whistled it off, so what a chance for the Flyers to tie this hockey game. Power play. 3:13 to go.
The cross-check is at 16:47. For the Flyers on the night, this will be power play number 3. Neither team has gotten a power play goal in this contest, although both teams have had commendable power plays over the recent stretch of games coming in. Ricci will have Tockett and Eklund to work with. Murphy and Craven will be in back. The Blues will kill with Ron Wilson and Dave Lowry, Harold Snepps and Mario Marois. Ron Wilson, a guy who played not only in the NHL and in some minor leagues, but also in Europe. Ron Hextall with an equipment adjustment. Now that that's done, play will continue with linesman Kevin Collins dropping the puck. And Ricci able to win it. Gets it back to Murphy. Slugs it back deep into the zone. Jablonski peering at the play as Marois flips it. Craven kept it. Tangled up, and Ricci came to help out. Lowry nearly was able to kick it free and head on toward the Flyers' end of the ice, but it's Murray Craven sliding it back across to Murphy. Then to Craven again. Power play just 20 seconds old. Murphy firing it around the glass. 2:50 to go in the third. If you're just joining us, the Blues have the lead over the Flyers 4-3. Puck back to Craven. Over for Murphy. Fire save. Rebound. Goal! All you got to do is stick with it. The Blues, guilty of being too aggressive at the top of their penalty-killing box, gave Gord Murphy a chance to tee it up, let her rip. Jablonski couldn't handle the shot, and here it is. The rebound right to Pelly Eklund. Bingo.
4-4 with 2:41 to go. See the Blues on the left side, too aggressive. Gave Murphy a lot of time. Harold Schnepp, well, you can second-guess his decision. He went down to try to block the shot, and that took him out of the play. Jablonski couldn't handle the rebound, and Schnepp, because he was gone down the block, wasn't there for the rebound, but that guy was. Kelly Eklund, number 9 of the Flyers, is tied it here. 4-4, 2:41 to go. Good hockey game.
Murphy and Craven come up with the assist. On Eklund, 6th on the power play, 14th of the year at 17-19. And here's Derek Smith losing it. It's thrown back off by Jablonski. The Flyers have never trailed going into a third period and come back to win in this season. But they might be able to do it tonight. They have 2:29 left in regulation time.
They have also not lost this season when scoring 4 or more. When they have scored 3 or less, and that has happened 35 times, the Flyers have only won 3. When they have scored 4 or more, this marks 32 times. So far, no losses. There are some ties in there, but the Flyers have yet to lose a game when they have scored at least 4.
Murray Craven with a couple of assists tonight, and 2 key wins on the goal that brought the Flyers back to within 1, and the goal that tied the game. 10 assists over the last 9 games for Murray Craven. Battle continues with 2 minutes and 15 seconds to go here in the third. Emerging with it is Ron Sutter. Flings one in. Headed for it is Lacombe. Brushed loose from him by Stevens, and then off Lacombe. It comes the other way where it's fed near Kartner. Good hand-to-eye coordination to keep it alive. Over for Derek Smith. Ron Sutter couldn't finesse by Oates, and he starts ahead. Right now, 3-on-2, but Sutter catches up. Oates over on the wing to Hall. Cranks the shot, and it went wide. Around the board, moving in is Marois to keep play alive. That one chipped right near Hextall, and he'll just scoop and hang on and get a stoppage of play. 1:46 to go in the third. Boy, the Blues seemed as though they were in control, but then the goal by Craig Berube, as you observed, Bill, seemed to cause them to reel a bit.
Yeah, they really did. They started playing like a team that was near the bottom of the standings. They just rammed the puck around the boards, and you know what happens when you think the boards are your best friend late in the hockey game? You figure, I'll wheel it around the boards, I can't get into trouble, and there could be a winger over there. There never is a winger over there because they have sagged back in so deep to try and help defensively. You just end up giving the puck back to the point man, the offensive point man. Now the Flyers obviously have to try and put a last through on Brett Hall. Also Adam Oates, the #1 game breaker of all game breakers, is in this hockey game. He's in the blue uniform, though. He's not in the white uniform.
Well, Hall is the guy back in the shooting hole for this face-off. Bob Basson will try to win it to him, or to someone. Craven in to test his face-off with Bob Basson. Off the tie-up, good body position by Craven, spinning Basson along, and it's Murray Barron hopping right back out with it for the Flyers with 100 seconds left in regulation time. Our tie game is at 4. Basson rammed into Ricci, jammed it along, and it's lifted back out by Rich Sutter. Grabbed there by Murphy and sent right back in off the high glass. Jablonski squids it loose behind, and hurriedly it's Harold Schnepp moving for it, then on to Marois. Crisply right back out again to Basson. Basson shuttles one that's knocked down by Rich Sutter, but played by Barron in the last minute 15 of regulation time. Now Ricci turning with it. Had it nearly knocked away by Courtnall. Remarkably, Ricci can emerge with it and play it over for Pelly Eklund. Tied up by Schnepp. Eklund trying to drop behind. Pelly Eklund guides it back for Barron's drive. Knocked down in front by Basson. And Basson just spins it back for Jeff Courtnall. Courtnall in the final 55 seconds of regulation time. Gets it back again and starts on Murphy. Tries to sachet by, but that didn't work. Eklund can start it back to the Flyers. He's got Tocchet with him and picks up Murray Barron. Eklund in, gets the Tocchet. Drive! Deflected away by Stevens. Eklund again for Tocchet. Hit off the outside of the goal, and perhaps the stick of Jablonski. The net accidentally dislodged by Jablonski as he reeled over. And with that, we'll get a halt to play. 34 seconds to go in regulation time of a 4-4 tie in a game that was sort of a snoozer for the home fans for a while, but they've come alive with their team in the third.
I can't count the number of 2-on-2s that Murray Barron has turned into 3-on-2s just by getting up on the play. Seemed to cross the St. Louis defense up. It was finally a decent block by Scott Stevens that saved the day. Here's Tocchet's big blast. Stevens went down, turned his face. But Murray Barron has been a real big force for the Flyers here tonight. Tocchet still shaking his head. Mitch Ricci looks like he's shaken up. Gary Smith looks like he's testing his left shoulder.
Boy, Jablonski made a pretty good short side save on that rebound that we saw just a moment ago. From our angle, I didn't see it at first.
Oh, that's where Mike Ricci got hit. Got Bob Basson coming from behind, pushed his shoulder forward. That's ultimately how the shoulder gets hurt. You get hit from the top so that the shoulder is pressed down, or you get hit from behind so that the shoulder is popped forward out of its socket.
Derek Smith able to worm it through Stevens. Paul Cavallini covered quickly along to Courtnall in the last 20 of regulation time. Good keep by Samuelson, and so the Blues have to go back again. It is Stevens tapping it along. It went away from Courtnall, but he recovers to turn back out to Hall on to Oates in the last 10 seconds of regulation time. The Blues guilty of offside headed in.
Well, Jeff Courtnall is arguing it, but he looked offside going down the far wall. So Brett Hall doesn't want to talk to him. I don't know if Brett Hall gets along with Jeff Courtnall. Brett Hall was shaking his head again. Top of your screen. Boy, I got news for everybody. That wasn't offside at all. Jeff Courtnall was right on this one. That puck was across the line before Courtnall's back skate was even close to being across the line.
I think as Brett admitted to you last year in St. Louis, sometimes that he gets a little annoyed at his line mates.
Yeah, he does, especially when he doesn't get the puck when he is open. I mean, he is one of 2, 3 players that has the right to demand the puck because he is so dynamic when he gets it, and he knows when it's time to get the puck. He just doesn't get it always, and that's when he gets most frustrated.
Paul Cavallini's shot went off Kartner. The horn sounds, and the Flyers will go into overtime for the 9th time this year. The 8 prior times have all been ties. The Blues have played in 15 overtime games prior to tonight. They've won 3, lost 4, and tied 8 games.
Well, that was sure a costly cross-checking penalty that Paul Cavallini took right in front of Pat Jablonski with 3 minutes and 13 seconds to go. It was on the ensuing power play that Gord Murphy fired the puck that Jablonski couldn't control. Pelle Eklund picked up the rebound and tied it. So Brian Sutter has seen this one kind of slip away from him. At least the 2 points have slipped away so far. We're working on a 1-point tie, but you know, at one time the St. Louis Blues would have been overjoyed to go on the road and play 500 hockey all season long, but now they are a team that is in first place overall, that has a whole bunch of game breakers, including the #1 guy in Brett Hall. But Brian Sutter doesn't want to settle for that.
Jablonski's first overtime game for the Flyers, Ron Hextall, has been in 3 this year, and he's wound up with ties in all of them.
You know, I mentioned that the Blues were projecting to 106 points. The Flyers are projecting to 85. 71 points. So Paul Hogan and his guys are looking at a 14-point improvement. A lot of that is sweat, and a lot of that is water coming from Pat Jablonski. He has been busy in the third, especially in the last 6 or 7 minutes when the Flyers have pressed him and have finally tied it up.
Well, Ron Caron didn't want to take any chances with goaltenders coming this close to the playoffs. He picked up Tom Draper, who has been regarded by many as the best goalie right now in the American Hockey League. And he's got him along with Jablonski. They have a very strong farm team in Peoria, coached by Bob Plager. But he doesn't want a chance that either Vincent Riendo or Joseph, either one, will not be able to come back for the playoffs. Because this is what they're keying toward right now.
Well, we'll see if the Flyers can carry Big Mo into the overtime. Momentum. They really took it to the Blues in the dying moments, but very often teams change. Once they get tied up, they turn right back into a team that looks like they're starting a hockey game. They don't go into a shell. They don't jump it around the boards. We'll see if St. Louis turns back into the normal team that they were at the start of the hockey game and not the team that they became when they fell behind by 2 goals.
Courtnall, Brindamore, and Hull have been the Blues who have scored the overtime goals for them this year. Blues have won 3 of their last 4 overtime games. They'll start with Brett Hall on the right wing, Adam Oates at center. Cross on the left side, I believe they're going to go with Dave Lowry. That's right, at the start of overtime. Ricci, Eklund, and Rick Tocchet for the Flyers. Kartner in back with Samuelson. And for the Blues, it's Scott Stevens matched up with Tilley. Puck wrapped around, Jablonski able to stop it there. Tilley quickly to it. Rushed by Ricci, and the puck popped over to Scott Stevens. Hustles it ahead for Dave Lowry to carry. Scoops it over for Adam Oates. Moves ahead. Here's Oates freezing right in front, and Samuelson able to fight him off with a strong defensive play from behind. Along now for Hall. Then to Lowry. Stood up for the checking of Terry Kartner. Eklund able to pop it free. And Eklund just lifts it back out, and the Flyers get a scare in the first 20 seconds. Icing is going to be called as Stevens touches up.
Well, it's been a tough night for Terry Kartner. He's had bounces go by him the wrong way. He's been on the ice for all of the Blues' goals. And watch this time, when Oates tries to go by him, Terry Kartner, his crossover actually tipped and fell. So the job was left to Shel Samuelson to reach out and hook Adam Oates back.
You just can't dwell on history. A lot of people in Detroit say, gee, if we hadn't traded him away. Well, Adam Oates might not have blossomed as much in Detroit as he had in St. Louis. There was a lot of difficulty in getting ice time. When Steve Yzerman is involved in 35% of your goals, he's got to get the extra advantage of time. And I think Adam Oates found that there just wasn't enough ice time there. And boy, he's getting all he wants here.
Good point, he sure is.
Oates, Paul Cavallini, and Lowry. Hall in the shooting hole. And it comes back to Cavallini. Hustles it across to Stevens. Slugs one that's blocked off by Ron Sutter. And Sutter can control for the Flyers, dumping it behind to Murphy. 45 seconds gone in the sudden death overtime. If you're just joining us, the tie score is 4. Ahead comes Scott Mellanby. Plays for Barron, but that went by him and by Paul Cavallini, who was defending. Big hit. Puck to Mellanby. Rising shot knocked down by Jablonski as Berube had the big check. Puck thrown back off by Stevens and back down. There'll be an icing call as headed back to touch it up is Gord Murphy. 3:52 to go in sudden death, and back it'll come near Jablonski.
I'm not sure that the Flyers' last scoring chance was even on goal. Scott Mellanby got it up high to try and get it over Scott Stevens. Jablonski went up high and made the save. Well, Scott Stevens has been one of the worst defenders, which is unusual for him as well. He's the Blues captain. Worst defenders of dumping it around the boards and dumping it out too hard. The reason the Flyers have this face-off to Pat Jablonski's left is that when Scott Stevens went to clear the puck, he just jammed it hard off the boards and down.
Flyers had 10 shots in the third. The Blues had 6. They were 23 each going into sudden death, and only one shot on goal thus far in the first minute 8. That off a Flyers stick. Wilson and Ricci thrust in, but nothing happened there except a lecture from Kevin Collins. Off this face-off, Wilson bear hugs Ricci. Puck taken by Tocchet. Chased down by Harold Snep. Puck kicked around to Eklund. Quickly back for Murphy's shot, and that went off the leg of Ricci and skipped wide. Snep to play for St. Louis, and he just lays it all the way back down. And the Blues again will be guilty of icing as Murray Barron hustles back to touch up. Montreal 2-0 over Edmonton in the third. Rangers 2-1 over Toronto in the third. Hartford 3-1 over Quebec in the third period. Calgary leading Minnesota 4-1 in the third. Buffalo beat Boston 7-4 this afternoon, and Washington has defeated the Islanders by a score of 3-2. Cape Breton and Hershey are 3-3 in overtime in an American League game.
That means the Capitals close to within 4 points of the last playoff spot, currently held by the Devils. The problem for Washington is they only play New Jersey once more this season. And if they're 4 or 5 points behind, you know that they could only make those up in the last weekend of the season by playing against New Jersey. And the Quebec Nordiques trailing 3-1 in the third now to Hartford. If Quebec loses, all the playoff spots will be decided. Not their positioning, but all of the other teams will automatically make the playoffs because Quebec will be mathematically eliminated.
You have to think Kimball felt like a man reprieved. Quebec only got 4 points in the month of February, and he's away from that now. He's with a team that could win it all. Marois swings this one all the way back down. Gerald Samuelson goes to get it. Another icing.
These guys don't have that much confidence in their centerman, do they? I mean, you just can't keep dumping it down the ice. The Flyers are going to get one if it continues. I mean, we haven't even hit the halfway point of the 5-minute overtime period, and every time St. Louis has gotten the puck, they just jammed it down the ice. Flyers are going to get one.
Blues put out Paul Cavallini and Scott Stevens. What, 4 icings now?
Yeah.
I believe in the sudden death overtime to St. Louis. Michael Pavonka had the winner tonight for Washington with about 5 minutes and, well, exactly 5:58 to go in the third, we're advised. So the Caps get 2 more points, as Bill mentioned, on a night when they sure could use it because Pittsburgh and New Jersey, the 2 teams above them, were idle. Puck back to Barron, and he fanned on the one-timer attempt. Lowry right on his tail, so he had to flip it quickly, and it went off Leon Sickle. Right back on comes Paul Cavallini. Hands to Rich Sutter. Can't get ready for the shot because Barron was on him. Loose puck picked up by Basson. Shovels a shot that goes off the glass, and it's Tocchet to chip one off the skate of Pelle Eklund. Brushed loose by Rich Sutter to be kept alive, but Tocchet able to move it back out. Lowry stumbles, but is able to one-hand it back in. Clock down to 2 minutes and 50 seconds to go here in the sudden death overtime. If you're just joining us, it's 4-4. The Flyers got the 2 late goals, one from Berube at 13:24, another from Eklund on the power play at 17:19 to make overtime happen. Paul Cavallini lifts it ahead. Tocchet swatted it down with his glove and is able to play further by dumping it to the corner. Adam Oates gave that one up to Derek Smith, but his shot went off Paul Cavallini. Hull and Terry Kartner tie up, and it squirts loose off the tip of Oates' stick to Stevens, and ahead now for Courtnall. Couldn't get by Kjell Samuelsson on defense. Samuelsson just dumps it back off. Rescued, though, by Courtnall. Blues are offside, I believe, on this, but no matter as the Flyers are able to bring it ahead. On now comes Lacombe. Can't dance through the defense. Mario Marois back to play with 2:05 to go. Hands it quickly on over for the carry by Scott Stevens, the captain of the Blues, leading the rush ahead. Stevens drops it on to Oates. Couldn't get it across to Courtnall. Picked off by Lacombe and flung down in Marois. Cleared one off the boards, and then Lacombe took over. Has a duel on his hands with Oates, but kicks it right on to Ron Sutter. Able to lift it in. Pelle Eklund had it squatted off his stick by Marois. Down to the last minute and 40 seconds here as the teams change lines. Back up for Murray Barron it comes. Dumps it back in off the stick of Marois. Hustling to him is Ricci. Marois able to wrap it around on his backhand. Jeff Courtnall takes over there. One of the Blues without a stick. Meanwhile ahead with it and able to rag it through traffic is Adam Oates. Oates able to spin one that went off of Paul Cavallini. Picked up by Ricci, though. He's wedged out of the play by Oates until Murphy connects back on for Pelle Eklund. 1:15 to go. Ahead now for Barron. Barron to the corner. Centered one across the goal mouth wide. And the Blues are able to rush back out. Right now 3-on-3 as the Flyers have dropped back conservatively. Courtnall moving in. Courtnall able to pivot away from Murphy. Feeds to the back. And a shot by Paul Cavallini was dubbed. Well, the Flyers can flip it back out. Pelle Eklund does that down to the last 55 seconds now of the game. Nets feeds it ahead. Cavallini couldn't stop that one. In deep it goes. Terry Kartner just wraps it around the wall. Craven tries to lift it out and does. Back near the Blues bench, it's collared by Stevens. Stepped into by Mellenby. Followed up by Hull. Hull moving in. Across now for Lowry. Spun one for Oates, and it was to the board. Oates dumps it right back off for Lowry again. Half a minute to go. Hull tightly defended by Terry Kartner. Puck taken by Sutter. Ron Sutter's pass picked off by Lowry and kept alive. The Blues can pour in again. Hull tried to center, but Craven got that one. Ron Sutter starts it back out for Mellenby. 15 seconds to go. Mellenby dumps it ahead. Sutter trying to reach. Checked off by Lowry to the corner. Still, they go at it in the final 10 seconds. And the puck wedged, and the Flyers will get a face-off in the Blues defensive end. The point men don't get involved in this, and so that enables the Flyers to keep that face-off back in the St. Louis end of the ice for the last 8 seconds of playing time.
Well, the Flyers dodged the bullet. Brian Sutter had all of his eggs in one basket. He had Courtnall on the left side, Oates at center, and Hall on the right side, and he started to do that when this score was tied late in the third period. The problem defensively for the Blues is that those guys aren't their best defensive players. But they had the Flyers pinned in their end. Had a couple of scoring chances that misfired, so now with 8 seconds to go, the faceoff is going to be to Pat Jablonski's right. Flyers will get one more crack at pulling the draw back and firing one home.
Well, Jablonski has not looked bad, but I think it's very easy when you expect such a high performance from Ron Hextall to underplay some of the saves that he made earlier in the game. Saves that might have put the Blues further ahead and have caused the Flyers to wilt a little earlier rather than have them down only by 2 for the comeback goals by Berube and Eklund. But Ron Hextall has had a very good game, too. Rangers have gone 2 ahead of Toronto now in the third, 3-1. Edmonton has closed the gap to half to Montreal, 2-1 in favor of the Canadiens in the third. Hartford 3-1 over Quebec in the third. Calgary 4-1 ahead of the North Stars in the third. Islanders lose to Washington 3-2. Buffalo this afternoon humbled Boston at Boston Garden 7-4. So the Bruins have bowed to Chicago and St. Louis and Buffalo. 26 weeks long, and it's hard not to go through stretches. Most of the teams in this league, as Bill and I have observed this year, have gone through long stretches of bad and long stretches of good, long defined as 5 games or more. There have been a number of those, and virtually every team has had it, except for Chicago having a long stretch of bad. Murray Craven to take the face-off. See, all the Blues are waving from their bench about something that's not quite right. Craven on the draw with Bassett. Kick back to Samuelson. Double shot deflected wide. 5 seconds to go, and the puck loose. Samuelson trying to keep it alive, but the Blues will just tip it back down the ice, and both teams will leave the ice with a point in the standings tonight. So the final score in this game, the Flyers 4, the St. Louis Blues 4. The shots on goal for the Flyers in the overtime 1. The St. Louis Blues, none. Only 1 shot in all 5 minutes of the overtime. So the defensive skirmish we thought we'd see, we finally saw once we got to the extra 5-minute period. Berube from Craven and Mellenby at 13:24. Eklund the tire from Murphy and Craven at 17:19. And it ends 4 apiece.
Listen, each year government...
Well, the trade deadline is just 43 hours away, and here are the latest rumors. Blues may acquire Garth Butcher from the Vancouver Canucks, while the Capitals may send Al Iafrate to Detroit for Jimmy Carson. The Rangers are still pursuing a big forward. No doubt Detroit's Joey Kosher, the Red Wings scout Danny Belial, has been scouting the Rangers minor league team in Binghamton and have been looking at Rob Zamner. Other Rangers mentioned in possible deals include Brian Mullen and Randy Moeller. Meanwhile, the media in Hartford feels that Ron Francis still may go. The Whalers need a point man now that Doug Crossman has been dealt away. And the Whalers also may land Flyers goalie Ken Reggett. Another possibility has Reggett and defenseman Yuri Lato shuffling off to Buffalo for, get this, Dale Ducky Wucky Howard-Chuck. Leaf swinger Gary Lehman thinks he'll be gone by Tuesday, and no doubt he's right, but where? Says Lehman, something has got to be done. The Canadians are interested in Gary. Meanwhile, Lehman's ex-teammate John Kordick was a no-show at last night Islanders Capitals game in Washington. GM David Poyle phoned Kordick at home. Kordick answered the phone. Kordick is now suspended indefinitely. Islanders goalie Mark Fitzpatrick is in the American League recuperating from EMS, a debilitating muscle disease, and the Islanders tell me that Fitzpatrick may yet come back and play with the big club before this season is over. If that happens, it's got to be one of the stories of the year. Time now for our cheers and jeers, our yays and boos. The yay has to go to Blues winger Brett Hull. Last night he joined Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux by scoring 70 goals in back-to-back seasons. My boo goes to the Blues off-ice officials at Thursday night St. Louis Ranger game. Brian Leach's 7-game scoring streak was wrongly and abruptly halted when officials incorrectly credited his assist to 3 other Rangers. Can you believe that? Then they gave it to Mike Gartner, who wasn't even on the ice at the time. Coming up next, we have Gary and Peter with the name of the game, which is the trade deadline.
I admire your luck, Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
For more than 25 years, James Bond has thrilled moviegoers. And now Time Life Video announces the James Bond Collection. And the adventure begins with Goldfinger, at the special introductory price of just $9.99. That's a savings of 50% off the regular price. Then you can collect other James Bond adventures on home video. Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Thunderball, Live and Let Die, Octopussy, and more.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
The James Bond collection begins with Goldfinger for only $9.99. If you keep it, you'll receive another great Bond movie each month for just $19.99. There's no minimum to buy. Cancel at any time. Call now to get Goldfinger for just $9.99. Here's how to order.
To order your James Bond video cassette, call 1-800-841-0300. That's 1-800-841-0300. Or send just $9.99 plus $3.23 shipping and handling to James Bond Video, P.O. Box 4670, Omaha, Nebraska.
Our Devils pregame show at the Meadowlands continues tonight. Our name of the game, the trading deadline is Tuesday. The deals, all kinds of rumors all over North America about potential deals. I thought John Muckler maybe said it best. He said that he thinks there's going to be a lot of trading going on in the next few days because there are a lot of teams in contention for the cup who may need some help. Peter, overall, when you talk about deals in the National Hockey League, what are the things that affect whether you do or don't?
Well, I think there is basically three things. One, are you a contender? If you think you have just one little thing you'd like to get. For example, yesterday, Calgary picked up Claude Loisel, a strong defensive center that can give them the depth at center ice that they need as they go into the playoffs. They figure they've got a first round against Edmonton. Could be very difficult. They want to have a lot of depth through that area. Then you get to teams like Quebec unloading older players, giving them up to contending teams for younger potential players that maybe aren't stars yet, but coming along. Then there's that other group of teams that feel that there's just one or two things that maybe might get them through at least a round or maybe into the playoffs like Washington. So those are the teams that maybe look like last year when the Devils went after Peter Stastny for Willanen and Valachuk. They gave up quite a lot, but they had to get that, they felt, to get themselves into the playoffs.
And of course what we're talking about here is the perception. The reality, there is none when you're talking about these things until after the fact. From a Devils perspective, their GM and their coach, what's the perspective on what they think they've got to do?
Well, I think the whole thing has been clouded a little bit. When you look at the Devils team, you saw strong goaltending. You saw a defense that maybe needed a little bit of toughness. They called up Jamie Huskroft, then Lee Norwood might be back to the playoffs, and a pretty good mix of forwards. Well, now Sean Burke is asked to be traded. So there's one player. He is the #1 impact player in the National Hockey League that's absolutely asked to be out. So that confuses everything, and he is there first and foremost to be traded. And it's a very difficult time for the players. Everyone came up to me today and said, you know, what do you hear? Whose name? Because more often than not, it's the player you don't hear about that ends up being part of the deal. And so everyone kind of wants to know what's underneath all the talk.
And for the Devils, if you go around looking for a goaltender in this situation, because you're concerned about Sean Burke and he's playing out an option and you want to try and get something for him before he's gone, it obviously becomes much more difficult to strike a deal because the people you're dealing with know he's already asked to leave.
But I think what the Devils will be doing if they do trade Sean Burke, it'll be for a defenseman or a winger. I don't think it'll be for a goaltender. And what the Devils will then do, if they trade Sean Burke, is make a deal for a backup goaltender. Just someone for a third or fourth round draft choice, bring him in behind Chris Terreri, because then they're committed to Chris Terreri, which I think they are already. And in the last 3 times there's been a Stanley Cup winner, the goaltenders won all 16 games. So you go into the playoffs, you only need one goaltender. And that's been pretty well proven in the last couple of years. Nice to have 2, but you only need 1 to win the cup.
Okay, trading deadline is Tuesday, so keep an eye on that transaction column in your local paper. We'll be back. Our forum, the pros and the Olympics, coming up.
Why does one person excel above all others? Is it motivation, raw talent, desire? Is it personal satisfaction, intelligence, luck? There's no magic food, and there's really no secret. But there is Soloflex. Because Soloflex is designed and engineered with one thing in mind. your body's needs. And we've created the finest, most complete, and simplest system to attain those needs. With Soloflex, the reward is yours. For a free brochure, call anytime.
Is this one of America's all-time greatest sports moments? Find out by calling now for your free 45-minute video from the Sporting News. The greatest moments in American sports history.
Call 1-800-238-3100 and get your free video with 25 issues of the Sporting News for 3 payments of just $9.96. Save 52%. Call now 1-800-238-3100. That's 1-800-238-3100.
Our Devils pregame show continues with our National Hockey League Forum. Craig Janney, the leading scorer for the Boston Bruins in here tonight, had an interesting comment. He's an Olympian off the team in 1988. He said last week, I don't think professional hockey players should be on Olympic teams. He said, this is for the younger kids. It's a great experience for them. I'd prefer the National Hockey League not let them play, and if I was in that situation as a pro, I wouldn't go. What do you think?
Well, this is a little purist at heart. I agree with Craig Janney. I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience the hockey players really enjoy. Once they become pros, things change. You get paid, you get money. Your whole life is different. There's a pureness of it. It was always so exciting. I always get back to 1980 and just the thrill of watching that whole thing happen. Maybe it only happens once every 20 years, but it was fabulous to watch. And I don't think it would be the same if it was a pro team.
Stan, would you send the pros?
Absolutely not. There's a practical part of this, Gary, and that has to do with the time of the season. The Olympics come at a very pivotal point in the schedule. And how would you like to lose some key guys from your club if you're battling for a playoff berth? It's absolutely absurd. We found in 1960, when we won a gold medal, and 1980, when we won a gold medal, we don't need professionals playing on the team, and I agree wholeheartedly with Johnny, and I'm sure that the fans understand when the club does not win, that the circumstances mitigate against it. Gary?
Well, the vote's 3-0 on that one. If you conclude Craig Janney, it's 4-0. But they are going to be playing on the next Olympics. We'll be back. The Devils and the Bruins face-off coming up.
You want a new car, but you don't want to do this. Well, now all you need is $20, and you can drive home any new Chevrolet or Geo. $20 will deliver the car just like that. You give them $20, they give you any new Chevrolet or Geo, and your first payment isn't due for 90 days. For example, with this Lumina, you'll save way more than $1,000 over the Ford Taurus, and $20 delivers. So get a new Chevy, $20, and pay nothing for 90 days. Nothing, no check writing, none.
The Southeastern Conference possesses some of the nation's top women's basketball teams. The postseason is in full swing, and teams are vying for a conference title and a shot at the NCAA tournament. Wednesday nights, take a closer look at America's future Olympic stars on U.S. Olympic Showcase. America's top amateur athletes prepare for Olympic Games in Barcelona and Albertville every Wednesday, only on the Sports Channel America Network.
From the Byrne Meadowlands Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey, Sports Channel presents New Jersey Devils hockey. Tonight, the Devils take on the fourth best team in the National Hockey League, the Boston Bruins. And for the New Jersey Devils, a victory here tonight, and they will move out of fourth place for the first time since January 7th. A victory tonight would move them ahead of Pittsburgh. Those are the Patrick Division standings, and this is the only Patrick Division game being played on this Sunday. Welcome back, everybody. Gary Thorne, Peter McNabb, Stan Fischler. Bruins in town. Always a great matchup when Boston comes.
The Devils have had good success against the Bruins this year. They played twice. The Devils tied 1-1 in Boston and then came back 3 days later and beat them 8-3 here. One of the best games the Devils have played all year.
Boston may have a better team injured than they put on the ice, but they still got a great team on the ice. Here's who we expect to see.
Well, Gary, this team is made up of some superstars and some hard workers.
Look at three names right here that Devils will have to watch. Craig Janney and Cam Neely, two of the best in their position in the National Hockey League. But a young rookie, Ken Hodges, come along, 23 goals, playing exceptional hockey, giving the Bruins a second line, something they didn't have last year as they went in the playoffs. And on defense, there's really only one name to look at when you see a team only one time or two times during a year. That's Ray Bourque, number 77 for the Bruins. He's the best defenseman in the National Hockey League. He has been for the last 10 years.
Rajon Lemelin will be the goaltender. He's the so-called backup to Andy Moog, but he will start. Moog lost the game to Buffalo in Boston yesterday for the Devils.
And for the Devils, Peter Stastny, who played so well, Toronto and Detroit, is out of the lineup tonight with the flu. Here are the lines we'll be looking at tonight. Shanahan with Morris McLean. They were outstanding in Detroit. Each one of them had at least one goal in that game. Here's the next line. The fastest line the Devils have put together all season. Seager, Muller, and Lemieux, who's back in the lineup after missing 2 games. Sundstrom on the left side with Maley and Brown. That's a good checking line. And then the fourth line, Conacher, Boschman, and Troy Crowder. On defense, some different matchups a little bit. Jamie Huscroft, he's back in the lineup. His first game against Detroit, he played very well. Fetisov, Kasatonov back together. And now Weinrich and Driver. I think we'll see this pairing for a long time through the course of the season. And back in goal, Chris Terreri.
Chris Terreri against the Bruins comes in with a 2-1-4 lifetime record. The Bruins and Devils. We'll be right back.
This NHL game on Sports Channel America is brought to you by Mazda Cars and Trucks. Mazda, it just feels right. And by Afrin Nasal Spray and new Afrin Saline Mist. We're just what your nose needs.
The boss in the family will be glad to know the 91 Mazda 626LX comes standard with an AM/FM cassette stereo, power windows and locks, power remote mirrors. And right now, you can get a Mazda 626LX value pack with air conditioning, moonroof, and an anti-theft alarm. Plus, cash back from Mazda, a total savings of $2,320. You're welcome to Mazda 626.
If you suffer from congestion caused by colds, allergies, or sinusitis, you should know that more doctors and pharmacists recommend Afrin, America's leading nasal spray. But if you're in the dark about relieving dry, itchy, irritated noses, now there's new Afrin Saline Mist. It delivers soothing moisture to irritated noses. And because it's non-medicated, you can use it as often as you want. New Afrin Saline Mist and Afrin 12-hour nasal spray. We're just what your nose needs.
In today's higher revving and hotter running engines, wear is a greater problem than ever before. Oil breakdown can shorten the life of vital engine parts. That's why there's Castrol. Castrol provides maximum protection against viscosity and thermal breakdown. So use Castrol, because driving today can be a grind. Castrol, engineered for today's smaller cars.
When sports cream, when arms are sore, when legs ache, when muscles hurt. Why sports cream? Massaging sports cream in brings fast pain relief. No medicine-y smell, no odor. Why sports cream? Because it works.
The Devils with a chance to win this season series. They have won one and tied one against the Boston Bruins. In Boston, a 1-1 tie, an 8-3 win here in New Jersey. Peter, let's check the scratches.
Well, for the Boston Bruins, it's, again, as usual, a very long list. Bobby Carpenter, he'll be out for the remainder of the year. Broken kneecap. Some of the players they expect back. Burge before the playoffs, Poulin by March 15th, and Chris Nyland for the playoffs. Lyndon Byers, they're not sure. But some players could add to the depth of the Bruins. For the New Jersey Devils, Walt Podubny, Norwood, O'Connor, and Abilene are all injured. Jeff Medill and Peter Stastny. Medill won't play tonight, and Stastny has the flu, but he should be back for next game.
The Bruins and the Devils out on the ice. The Dapper Dans are on hand tonight to perform our national anthem. And it may take longer to get them on and off the ice from the first period. But they are special guests here tonight. They are here a couple of times a year. In fact, they perform the national anthem for the Meadowlands crowd. And there will be a good house on hand here tonight for this game against the Bruins, and the Devils' chance
move into third place ahead of Pittsburgh if they can get the victory. Pittsburgh coming off that long road trip out in western Canada. Suffered a loss last time around to Calgary. They'll be happy to get back home with that trip over.
Well, their record is 9-0 in their last 9 home games. 10-1 their last 11 away games.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare of a searching air gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, take us that star-spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the free and the home of the
The Dapper Dans performing our national anthem here at the Meadowlands tonight. Bruins lost yesterday in a seesaw game with Buffalo. They stayed in it till it ended up about 4-3, 4-4, and then they got blown away at the end of it by the Buffalo Sabres. They had the yesterday afternoon game, while the Devils, of course, are coming back from Detroit.
Réjean Lemelin starting in goal for the Boston Bruins. Andy Moog was injured. Lemelin started 7 games in a row. He's 4-3 in those 7 games, but played better than that record indicated. Right now, he's 36 years old, but still considered a solid backup to Andy Moog for the Boston Bruins. And in goal, making his 41st start of the season, Chris Terreri, who's moving to 3rd place in the National Hockey League goals against average of 2.78. Only Patrick Roy and Ed Belfort have better marks than that.
Big numbers, and an .899 save percentage for Terreri as well, so he's got that almost back up to that .900 mark, which is outstanding save percentage. 38-year-old father of 6, Kerry Fraser, our referee tonight. Mark Vines and Kevin Collins will be working the lines with him. Off the draw, Janney. Devils got it. Conacher sends it in. Taken away by Jim Weimer, the defenseman. Driver, Cam Neely. Neely got the skates caught in the stick that time and went down. Comes over to Weinrich. Weinrich and Driver working together. Pushed in by Boschman, so it's the checking line against the scoring line of the Bruins. Crowder out there off for Conacher in the middle. Driver, and he sent it wide. The defenseman joining the play early. Laurie Boschman holds it in. Lemelin in behind the net. 17th pro season for Réjean Lemelin. Up off the boards to Neely. Neely drops it ahead to Janney. Craig Janney, 13th in the league in scoring. And on top with the Bruins, as he and Neely just 1 point apart. Behind the net, Weinrich got it out for Crowder. Crowder will try and dump it out. Had it deflected by Christian into the zone. Weinrich back. Neely was up on him. Janney on the other side. Conacher trying to clear it out. Busts off the glass by Bob Beers and into the seats. This Boston team, 37-21-8. And they are going to be another winning season Boston Bruins team.
And right now in the National Hockey, the longest consecutive season. You see the Montreal Canadiens right there had it broken up in 1984. The Boston Bruins, 24 years in a row, 24 years in the playoffs. Truly one of the most successful franchises in all of professional sports.
Mike Milbury, their head coach, 38 years old, 2nd season. He's got to be considered for Coach of the Year in the National Hockey League.
He was one of the 3 finalists last year. The award was won by Bob Murdoch of Winnipeg. But this year, I'm sure he'll be one of the 3 finalists again.
People don't realize this Boston team has had to play through so many injuries, an incredible number of injuries, and yet have remained among the top 4 in the league all season. Devils got it in, cleared right back out by Kenny Hodge. Brought up along the right side and dumped by Petr Striko. The Tisov back to get it, up for Sundstrom. Hodge back to get it. What a rookie season. Ken Hodge, 47 points. He's the 3rd leading rookie scorer in the National Hockey League. Keep an eye on number 10, a familiar Bruins hockey name. His dad, of course, played for these same Bruins. Cleared in. Terreri back to get it. Castletonoff. Lazaro was up on him. Out the center is Hodge put the check on. Bruins got to clear the zone. They do. They will dump it right back in. Back to get it, Castletonoff. He and Fetisov teamed up. Maley is out there. Dougie Brown right there back in action, along with Patrick Sundstrom on this line. Bruins jamming and holding it in. Don Sweeney dumped that one deep. Castletonoff tries it the other way. Nobody there. This is going to be an icing call on the Devils. And that will draw the whistle as we are 2 minutes and 1 second into the first period.
Yeah, what the Bruins do well forward checking is they read off each other. And Johnny Cuniff, of course, knows that. He was in Boston for quite a few years. Assistant coach with the Bruins was Terry O'Reilly before he came over to the Devils last year. But he knows what the Devils are facing. A team that checks well, takes very few foolish penalties, and relies on the key players, Janney, Neely, and Bourque, to make a difference in the hockey game.
Peter, for all the hitting this team is noted for, they have the second fewest penalty minutes in the National Hockey League this season, under 20 minutes a game. So they don't give you opportunities on the power play. It'll be cleared out. Again, the Bruins chasing down at the far end is Gary Galley, former Washington Capital. Galley working with Sweeney on defense. Into the middle it is loose. Picked up again by Galley. Poke checked away. Sweeney sends that one in. Wide of Terreri. Weinrich over to get it. We haven't had a shot on goal yet by either team 2.5 minutes in. Kenny Danico up for John McLean, the Devils' leading scorer. Mac with 66 points, 38 goals. Held in by Stevenson. Shane Stevenson, yet another rookie on this Boston team. They've got 5 rookies. In front shot. Terreri just blocked that one on the short side post. Opportunity for Stevenson. Comes to center to Sweeney. Sweeney will clear it in. Bob Sweeney working on the wing. You'll see Don Sweeney out there on defense. McLean's got it. McLean with Morris and Shanahan. Shanahan into the corner. Cam Neely on him. Centered it. Right through the middle. McLean was cutting. Wanted a penalty. Will not get it. Got held from behind. Weimer was able to clear it out, and there's Bourque who sends it in. 77 will be on the ice a lot. Half the game as usual. Bourque moves in on Shanahan. Bounces by to McLean. Tipped away from him by Weimer. Comes back by Weimer, and it'll be picked up by Janney. Craig Janney, 75 points on the season. Weimer bounces that one in the air, and it'll end up in the seats. From the Meadowlands, Devils and Bruins.
Brett Bodine, one tough driver, talks about Quaker State, one tough motor oil.
At North Wilkesboro, that Carolina asphalt was hot enough to fry our King Racing Buick. Our engine was running hot, 240 degrees, and I had to keep pushing it over 8,000 RPM. Now that's when you start worrying about your oil's viscosity breaking down. But when the going got tough, the same Quaker State you can buy right off the shelf was tough enough to get me to the finish line first.
Quaker State is one tough motor oil.
Sports Channel would like to welcome those viewers watching tonight's game, our newest affiliate, Falcon Communications in Plattsburgh, New York. Good hockey country, and folks in Plattsburgh, we welcome you. Great to have you with us on Meadowlands tonight. Andy Hustroff working with the driver. Cleared ahead to Conacher. Conacher, Crowder, and Boschman. Bourque stepped up, took Boschman to the board. Poked away by Neely. Boschman got it back. Pretty good jousting right there between Bourque and Laurie Boschman. Christian's got it. Dave Christian dropped it into the middle. Kicked ahead by Sweeney into his own end. Bourque will rush it. Bourque in. Christian ahead of him is offsides, and that draws the immediate whistle.
We'll see no fooling around by the Devils this time of the season. 14 games to go. The checking line is out there. The roles in the team really are starting to be broken down very definitely during this time of the season. The checkers check and the scorers need to score. See Dave Christian right there, who came over from the Washington Capitals last year, didn't have a good year. He said he felt stale and Washington needed a trade. And this year with 29 goals, got himself going again. He said he worked hard on his skating over the course of the summer. Usually as players get older, the skating's the first thing to go, so that's what he worked on most this year.
Well, he's playing at a +7 for the Bruins. Off the draw, Devils will control. Lemieux clears it out by Muller. Lemieux, Muller, and Seeger. Claude Lemieux getting back in after missing games with that eye injury. Did not go on the road. Bourque and another joust with Muller. They went at it good. Lemieux back for Castletonoff. Held it into Muller. Muller to the corner. Ray Bourque is really flying tonight for whatever the reason. Of course, he always does. But tonight, he's really banging. Devils respond as Muller came over and got a good shot on Christian. Cleared out to Janney. Janney will bring it ahead. Janney in with Neely. Janney looking, but the Devils are back. Janney drops it. At the point, shot on Wesley, tipped in front by Christian. Terreri made the save. Seeger's got it. Devils have a 5-on-2. Lemieux drops it off for Muller. Bruins get back. Kasatonov centering in front. Seeger tried to knock it down. It went wide. Cam Neely in the corner. Neely drops it off. The Devils love to keep an offense.